There we go. Do I actually have any controls over this? This is my first time ever doing the YouTube webcam live thing. Never tried this before, so no idea what it's like. No idea if y'all can hear me. Looks like I might be a bit quiet, maybe. What's going on here? No, you're a mute. We don't need a mute. What are you? Are you a share? Yeah, you're a share. Okay. So not like a pause webcam thing in case I need to go toilet or something. That sucks. Hey Mike, how are you? Thanks for being here. This is not something I do very often. I was going to do this in my Discord server, but Saturday tends to be one of the more quiet days in my Discord server. I forgot about that. So I sort of had this idea to do it in Discord and then realized probably no one will actually come because everyone has stuff to do on Saturdays. So I figured if I did something on YouTube itself, that would cast a wider net and hopefully mean a few more people could hang out. Yes, very, very sorry about the situation over there with the war, Mike. There's, here in the comfortable West, there's really very little that we can say that's going to make you feel any better. But I think basically everyone is on your side. And we just hope that the situation comes to an end as soon as possible, really. It's kind of all anybody wishes for. Yeah, I'm just amazed with your Infinity work. The last Saturday I was on tournament, 18 people and I took third place. Nice, that's amazing. Really good stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to find a bit more time to get back onto painting my Infinity at the moment. I really want to get my Morats and my JSA both to a level of paintedness that I could take them to tournaments. But the problem is, a lot of the time, if I want to work on personal projects, such as today, I have to work on my day off. Because commissions are just so busy, which, is a good problem to have in a lot of ways. But it can, it can be a bit, it's not great for the inspiration sometimes, perhaps, if you're trying to stay artistically inspired and you don't have much time to paint your own stuff, that can definitely have an effect. But yeah, I just thought today, I am a reseller for War Cradle Studios, and they asked me to review Dystopian Wars, which I did recently. You've probably seen that on the channel. And that made me then, from reviewing Dystopian Wars, that sort of made me aware of just how good quality their miniatures are. And as a result of that kind of spurred me on to have an interest in stocking their products. Just going to need to run and get some kitchen roll. I'll be right back. I'm actually in my dining room doing this. We've not long moved into this house, so it's still a little bit of a mess, but that can't really be helped at the moment. So yeah, that made me want to kind of stock their products. And this game in particular, Wildwest Exodus, I figured, if the miniature quality is as good as the stuff for Dystopian Wars, the visuals are certainly something that I think is very attractive. And all of that together could make a really nice product line. And lo and behold, I bought a sample box to check it out, which arrived yesterday. And I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of the product. So very happy to now be retailing for War Cradle Studios. I think they've got a great line of products, and I hope that we can kind of make each other successful in that regard. Good morning, you hardworking chaps. Someone should get you a few 28-hour days for Christmas, mate. You remember what it was like from the kitchen days. It's it just do be like that sometimes. There are just times where a lot of hours need worked, and that's just how it has to be. It's fine. It's fine. I don't mind working hard, Working hard is not really the trouble at all. It's controlling burnout. That's the hard work. So so this stream is really just going to be a very casual, just as if you were in the room with me while I'm sitting building. I'm not doing anything special for the stream. I'm sat in my dining room mostly because I've got deliveries coming in today, and I don't want to have to mess around with stream stuff and then come downstairs and answer the door, bring boxes back upstairs, put boxes away, etc. So what I can do is, if I'm down here, then when deliveries come, I can just answer the door, drop them down in the corner of the dining room, and deal with them after the stream. That just seems a lot easier. My cat is here, and he's in a particularly asshole mood today. So if at some point you hear the sound of falling objects or something of the like, we can probably actually have my face a bit more visible. There's a very real possibility that at some point he will decide to be a pain in the ass. That is a thing that he does. Right, can I turn up my microphone from here? Is the microphone loud enough? Can you actually hear me okay? I have no idea how good output. No, input, that's what we're after. Input volume. Yeah, so I can get a bit more volume. Oh yeah, that seems a lot better. Is that good? That seems better. At least on the sliders, it looks better. I remember waking up to one of your cats trying to eat my foot, mate. That would have been, that was when I lived in Oldfield Park. I think that was when I lived in Oldfield Park. That was different cats. Is that sound okay though now? Can you hear me? Because it's the webcam mic, so I can't do much about the quality, but I can, have limited control over the volume at least. Cool. So yeah, if you've not seen it, this set, Dystopian Wars, it's like a steampunk alternate 19th century skirmish game. It's got about 8 or 10 main factions, and then there's sub factions within those. Very, very good quality hard plastic miniatures. I'm talking like GW quality. I mean, look how densely packed these sprues are. They're so good, and there's a lot on them as well. I mean, you can see pretty clearly how good the quality is there just on the webcam. The webcam's doing an all right job of picking that up. Just a very, very impressive game, and I love the visual styling of it. It sort of ticks a similar box to me to what I like about Malifaux, but there are things about Malifaux from a product line perspective I'm not sure about. I find Malifaux a bit impenetrable. I find it a bit hard to access it. How to build an army list feels kind of a bit like a closely kept secret that you have to be a certain level of cool to be allowed to know. I think they've got a lot of work to do on making the sort of onboarding experience a bit more welcoming, because as it stands at the minute, I feel like I want to play Malifaux, but Malifaux doesn't want me to play it. And that has led me to pick up both Carnivale from TT Combat and this game, Wildwest Exodus. So 2 other companies have got my money because Weird have such a bizarre onboarding pathway for Malifaux. This miniature that I'm building, what I'll do is, because I can't really show you these miniatures super clearly on camera, what I will do is, whichever miniature I'm working on at the time, I'll post a link to an image in the chat so that people can see what I'm working on. Let's see here. There's actually 2 versions of this particular miniature. There's like a legendary version, which is a really like super detailed sculpt, and then there's a more basic version. The one that you get in the box set is the more basic version, but still a very impressive miniature all the same. Where are you? Where the devil are you? It's like every other miniature from the starter box has an image on Google. Oh, come on. Come on, I know you're in there somewhere. Just only wants to show me this legendary version. That is not the version. Yeah, I mean, it's this one, but it's the other image of it. Ah, there we go. Let's see. Can we go to... Okay, so we can save the JPEG link. That's not really what I want to do. I want to copy link address. There we go. That's what I want to do. So the model that I'm building at the moment is this one. Oh, that's a good cup of tea. I needed that today. I've been sick recently. Those that are members of my Discord will be aware. The rest of the internet probably won't. I've been not in the greatest of health recently, and then to top it off, in the last few days I got a cold. So I've had like some general health concerns recently, and then added a cold to the mix. Fortunately, touch wood, cold seems to be passing really quickly. Like I feel like I'm in the tail end of it already, and the symptoms only got particularly bad yesterday. So, but you know, it's like a cold is nothing, right? But a cold when you're already not feeling good from other stuff can like be the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? Yeah, it's a really nice kind of steampunk style, isn't it, Briog? It's really well designed. The look of the game overall is fantastic. There's also very, very good quality MDF terrain to go with the game that you can buy separately. It's quite expensive compared to like TT Combat, but if you're used to like, you know, micro art studios and brutal cities and stuff like that, like the infinity level stuff, then it feels pretty cheap, to be honest, or pretty affordable, I should say. Shouldn't really use the word cheap, should we? It has connotations that the product might somehow not be good, which is definitely not what I'm saying. So yeah, just putting together. This is Gustave Eiffel, as in guy the Eiffel Tower is named after, and he is the leader of one of the 2 factions that comes in the starter box. There's a lot of miniatures for this game as well, which I appreciate. I always worry that these little sort of indie skirmish games just won't have enough releases to like keep them relevant, to keep the player base interested. Yeah, I agree too, Zarin. The Wild Wild West movie was the first thing I thought of when looking at it. But yeah, it has a good solid release stream. at the moment. I've put a few products up on my website. If you go to thatmrshy.com, obviously all one word, you will, in the War Cradle section, you will find a few Wild West Exodus products are up at the moment. I've not had chance to put a ton of SKUs up, but I have the starter box and a couple of posse boxes. I'll make no secret of the fact that the posse boxes that I have listed are the ones that I personally really like, and the ones that I am quite likely to buy fairly soon. But I will be getting as much of the product line listed on the website as possible because it's a very impressive product line. I mean, this hard plastic, I've not even needed to get out like the sanding sticks yet. Like it's so good to work with. Just the edge of the knife does everything, and it really isn't struggling at all. So, in terms of product quality, I'm over the moon. Very, very happy. I'm always a bit careful these days with putting my name to products. Obviously, for one, times can just change. Like your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on a particular product can just change as you become exposed to new products, as your needs change, that kind of thing. There's actually going to be more on that on YouTube soon. That's actually a topic I'll be discussing in a video soon. But at the same time, you do have to, when you're in a position where you've got some kind of platform, not that mine's particularly big, but it's big enough that the stuff that I say means something to people. You do just have to make sure that you're not putting your name to something that could make you look bad, I guess. Which is difficult because there's just sometimes stuff that you can't see initially, stuff that you don't know. So it's very rewarding to get a product in hand, first of all, and then take a look at it, actually know the quality is good, and then decide, yes, I will champion this product. Yes, I think this is a good product. Might have to grab that Conquistadors posse come next payday. They look very much, they're the ones that I think Jenny's going to really like. Although the Wayward 8, which is the Firefly crew, I don't know whether you've noticed that. The Wayward 8 is the Firefly crew, but it's based around the era of the Serenity movie. So River's got like the Reaver blades, and Inara's got the bow, for example. But the Wayward 8 and the Conquistadors posses are the two that I think Jen and I would probably both enjoy. That said, the posses in the starter box are really interesting. One of them's got a lot of cavalry. I don't know whether you can see on the back here, but this posse here, there's a lot of like machines and cavalry in this one, which I thought was kind of interesting. For a skirmish game, I think it's pretty cool that they seem to not shy away from including vehicles. And there's like special movement mechanics around vehicles where they use this turning template. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of skirmish games forget, is that people dig vehicles. And leaving them out definitely can make it feel like something's missing. So I think that's a really smart inclusion. Range seems quite varied for skirmish size. Yeah, I mean, I think there's only like 8 or 10 arc factions, but then within those arc factions, there's sub factions. So there's quite a bit of design space for variety in the miniatures. Right, here comes the fun. Cleaning up the legs on this spider chair thing. Spider chair, here's a spider and a chair. Yeah. go. Not too difficult, actually. Not too difficult in general. Down Under Minis, how you doing? Working on the Wildwest Exodus starter set. I'm currently building Gustav Eiffel. And if you scroll up the chat a little bit, there's a image that I posted just a couple of minutes ago that shows you what the model will look like when it's fully assembled. It's a very, very pretty miniature. Bruno, good morning. How is it in Mexico City at 5:30 in the morning? Jeez, early start, my friend. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good place to start. I think like multi-limbed models like this, especially as they tend to be ball and socket, they can be a bit, they can feel a bit like fiddly to build. Sometimes it's pretty easy for them to get kind of out of control and not be super great to build. But this, so far, despite having an awful lot of limbs, has been a pretty decent experience. It's actually been all right. I've not hated any moment of it just yet. It's nine in the evening. Yeah, 9 in the evening yesterday. No, you're in the future, aren't you? 9 in the evening tonight. Yeah. Time zones still just confuse the shit out of me. They shouldn't. It's just basic addition, but I'm incredibly stupid, and so I tend to find stuff like that really, really messes with me. Where do these little handles go? Oh shit! Do they go inside? Oh, that was a mistake. Might have to go and find some tweezers because I've got a feeling these are going to be really hard to get in to where they need to go. Now that I've glued Mr. Gustav into his seat. We shall see. Tanks and armoured cars can be fun, but they're bulky to transport to the club and back. I'm on 2 wheels at the moment. I don't have copious boot space for an army. Well, yeah, and I think that's where being clever about it helps. In this, they seem to go for mostly... they seem to be into like jet bikes, well, they call them iron horses, chariots, like fairly small vehicles that just take up maybe slightly more space than a normal miniature might, which I think is pretty smart. I think that's probably the way to go if you're going to put vehicles into your skirmish game. Oh, I'm still so snotty from having a cold. And I've still got a bit of a cough, as you can tell. That's a fun time. Right, can we actually... Yeah, I reckon with the tweezers we're going to be okay here. Let's just get the end of this in the tweezers. Try and do some gluing with my right hand. Oh yeah, just about got it on there. I think that's right. Yeah, there we go. Little handlebar. That's that little handlebar there is the part that I was just struggling with briefly. You can kind of see it sticking out. Its camera doesn't really want to focus on it, but maybe if I get really close. No, camera, your focus is interesting. Your focus priority is interesting. So looks like a fairly forgiving kit as well. That was one of the issues that I actually had with the Dystopian Wars kit. And I said in the video, if you've watched the video, I'm sure you'll remember, you know, I do think it was my fault more so than the kit's fault for not fully paying attention to the instructions, but I did make a small mistake in the assembly of that big airship, and it really threw off the build overall. And I think that is, you know, it's something important to know going into it is, you know, if a kit is kind of unforgiving or has the potential to be unforgiving, it's good to be aware of that. Oh yeah, that looks lovely. Hopefully won't need those tweezers again now because I'll hopefully not be a silly sausage. You know, and I don't necessarily think that a kit being tricky or, you know, or potentially unforgiving, I don't necessarily think that that's even a problem as such. Like, modern GW kits are cripplingly unforgiving at times, and they're still extremely popular with hobbyists. So I don't think that it's, you know, harmful to a product if the kit can be a bit tricky. But I do, you know, I do also think it's kind of important when you like review something like that to mention it, because people can then prepare themselves for that and, you know, take extra precautions to catch any potential problems. Squad, how you doing, friend? Welcome in. Squad, one of my only YouTube members. I don't normally what BattleTech kit do you think I should get into painting BattleTech? I'd personally try and get the Game of Armored Combat box first, just because it's got 8 really classic mechs in it. And that's kind of specifically what I like about it, is that the curated lances, that it's 2 lances, 8 mechs, are really smart decisions in terms of like checking boxes. You know, the Awesome, the Battlemaster, the Wolverine, the Griffin, the Locust, the Commando. It's just like so many mechs in there that are absolute icons of the IP. And they kind of cram them all into that starter box. But if not, then if you're not sure that you want to go straight in with like a 50, 60 quid box, buy a Lance box. Just buy a Lance box that contains some mechs that you like. They're about 25 quid. So in Aussie dollars, probably about double that, probably about 50 Aussie dollars, I bet. The pound is kind of weak at the moment, but I'd imagine it's still about 2 to 1 on Aussie dollars. BattleTech is a great game in that a complete army is like 12 mechs. If you really want to get into it with like combined arms stuff, then you can introduce tanks and infantry and aeroplanes. But those things are by no means essential to BattleTech as a functioning game. They're very much an extra. Just unclogging my plastic cement glue. If your plastic cement glue ever clogs, by the way, that's how you unclog it. You just heat the nozzle. Obviously, just be careful because it will fume a little bit. But yeah, BattleTech is an incredibly cheap game to collect for. Like 75 quid would buy you a complete company of 12 mechs. And, you know, the miniature quality is not, it's not the best on the market. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Lance packs are so affordable. They're not the best quality miniatures on the market. Anyone that tries to tell you they are is lying to you. But they're, you know, they're nice enough. They paint well. they're just a bit of a dick to clean up. Take care, Briog. Thanks for dropping in, mate. But yeah, when it comes to BattleTech, it is an incredibly easy game to buy into. Again, it does suffer a bit, like Malifaux, from not being super well signposted, but less so. Like Malifaux has the problem of it doesn't tell you what to buy initially, and figuring out what to buy initially actually requires quite a bit of research, because you can go like, oh, I really like this little crew box. That's fine, but that crew box isn't enough for a full-size game on its own. So you do have, when you want to play full-size games, you have got to then make some additional purchases. But the problem is, you've then got to do research to figure out what units can align with that crew, and it's not as simple as just units from the same faction. So it gets pretty complicated, and you do have to do a fair bit of homework to figure all that out. BattleTech isn't like that. It has, the beginner box, which is 2 mechs and some standees and some quick start rules. The quick start rules don't have things like heat management, but they are essentially the BattleTech rules. Then you would upgrade to the Game of Armored Combat box, which is where I personally recommend starting, unless you specifically want the mechs from. You get a Griffin and a Wolverine in the beginner box. Then there's the Clan Invasion box if you want to introduce the clans, which includes a star of clan mechs, which is 5. And then from there, you can kind of just buy lance packs, right? Or even the individual mechs if you want. They sometimes do like some limited edition individual mechs. Where BattleTech struggles with clarity is force composition. There are 3 different competing point systems. Actually, kind of 4. So there's Battle Value 1 and Battle Value 2. Battle Value 2 is like a revised version of Battle Value. And those Battle Value is supposed to be how you do your matched play. You have equal battle value either side, and as long as you do that, no problem. However, because battle value went through such a long time of being a bit badly balanced, and I personally think that the revised battle value is fine. BV2 is absolutely fine. At least for as much as I've played BattleTech, it hasn't caused me any problems yet. By no means an expert. But because BV1 was a problem, some of the community started using the in-universe monetary value of a mech as the point system. So you could spend X number of C-bills to build your lance, which is an even less balanced system for so many ridiculous reasons. And then some just use weight. So, you have a set amount of tonnage, and so stuff like that can make list design quite difficult. You also have like era as a restriction. People like to play in certain eras. Like my personal favorite is the Succession Wars era, which means no clan mechs, no clan tech of any kind. I'm not personally very keen on the clans. I think it's just, the power jump doesn't introduce anything intriguing or interesting to me. It just makes lopsided battles, which I don't particularly feel a strong need to get into that. Yeah, BattleTech definitely has its problems. It's definitely not perfect, and most of those problems are to do with just the fact that it's such an old game with such an established player base that there are just different ways of doing things that have developed over the years. And it's had a few changes in ownership and stuff like that, which has led to a bit of a loss of consistency here and there in the way some stuff is done. So it's just one of the things to kind of be aware of when getting into it. It's a great game. It's a really great game. But you do have to just bear with it a little bit. You know, just be willing to suffer its little idiosyncrasies a little until just very nearly dropped a knife on myself. Until you kind of get the hang of it, and you will get the hang of it eventually. Like it's not you know, particularly cryptic or anything. It's just a bit weird. It's just a bit of an odd game, but it is exceptionally fun, and it benefits massively from having a huge history of lore and like good video games and stuff like that. So if you're kind of, I think that's why people coming from like 40k have landed on BattleTech, because obviously if you're coming from 40k, then of course BattleTech's going to seem great to you, because like he's going to go on one of the smaller bases, isn't he? In fact, is there only one smaller one? Or the rest all the larger ones? Oh no, there's a few. Yeah, I'm assuming he goes on the smaller one. Yeah, because it has all that lore. Is BattleTech American? Yeah. Because it has all that lore, because it has, you know, the support of all that history. It has video games. It has a lot of video games. There's some older video games as well, the Mech Warrior games. So there's like a lot about it that makes for you know, quite a familiar territory for a Warhammer fan. Okay, he does go on a size 3. He actually does go on one of the larger bases. That's surprising. It didn't look, in the picture that I saw of him, it didn't look like he went on one of the larger bases. Yeah, that kind of makes sense now. Thanks for that. I might order the Game of Armored Combat from my local hobby store, and I'll definitely eventually teach my friend. The good thing is it's a very easy game to learn because it's like a chart consultation system. So when you play, basically, each time you activate a mech, you're just following a flowchart effectively, and you roll dice and you consult the tables to see what happens. Which, like, for the mental workload is really nice. It's not a particularly stressful game to play. It's funny because people take the piss out of it for having a lot of combat math, but it doesn't actually have a lot of combat math because all the combat math is there on charts for you. So you just go, I rolled this. That means that happens. So there is actually no math to do because it's all there for you. But it's viewed as being a very mathy game, which is weird. I recall Mech Commander being one of the games that really blew me away when it came out. Mech Warrior 5, the current BattleTech game, I do think, like, if you're a first-person shooter fan, it's probably gonna come off as a bit janky. But I think so long as you are a BattleTech fan and you have some level of investment, I think you're probably going to actually really enjoy Mech Warrior 5. I personally think it's a fantastic video game. I just checked the Lance packs are 40 Aussie dollars. That's decent. That is decent. I actually just this week, little cause for celebration, just picked up my first ever BattleTech commission. So I've been into BattleTech for over a year now. Nearly 2 years, I think. I think BattleTech and Infinity I kind of got into around the same time. And I've just picked up my first commission, and it's for a full company, which is really sweet. I feel so good about that because I love painting the BattleTech miniatures. But, you know, again, like I said right at the start of the stream, I just don't always have a ton of time to work on my own projects. If a project isn't paying, then it can be difficult sometimes to justify that time investment. Yeah, BattleTech by Harebrained Schemes, the 2018 video game, is based on the tabletop. So if you want to get a bit of a feel for the tabletop, but with a kind of 3D animated chess kind of vibe to it, but for me, with both MechWarrior and BattleTech, the thing that I really love about them both is it's the management side, the force management side. It's so deep and well designed and just really engaging. And that's, I think, what makes both BattleTech and MechWarrior really, really great games. Will you make videos painting the commission? Sadly not, because the color scheme that he wants is actually the Mercenary company color scheme that I just put a video up for. So it would be doubling up, unfortunately. Otherwise, yes, definitely. But sadly, I can't. I would love to. I want to paint as much BattleTech as I can, and I'm hoping that as a result of this commission, he'll post it on social media and be happy with it, and that will lead to more BattleTech commissions because it's just a thing I want to paint more of. I find them very low stress to paint. I find them stressful to clean up and prep because they're PVC, which is a shit material to clean up and prep. But the actual painting of them I find really relaxing because they're just, fairly angular, fairly sort of predictable, regular shapes. And I paint a lot of Infinity, which is not that. Infinity is, it's a very intricate miniatures game. So it's a really nice break from that. That's part of the reason why something like this appeals to me so much as well, to be honest, is there's two different types of notch. 1, 2. Okay. So these legs are actually specific. That's interesting because they're all the same pose. Yeah, I love painting Infinity, but it is, maximum effort and maximum concentration the whole time that you're working on it. And sometimes it's really nice to be able to just cut loose and paint at a chilled pace. Rusted Beetle, Bot War, I love. I actually talk to Anthony Mallet a lot. We speak really regularly. And I so desperately want to see that game be more successful. And this is not at all Anthony's fault. But for me, the one thing I struggle a bit with Bot War is just that it's a bit pricey to collect in the UK. And that's really not Anthony's fault. And that's one of the reasons why I want to see him succeed more, because if he does better, he'll have ways to bring those prices down somewhat. And that will be great for him. And it'll be great for people like me that want to play his game. And obviously, I get that it's a bit shit for me to say that because he has in the past sent me stuff, and I do believe he wants to send me stuff again. But that's YouTube reviewing, and YouTube reviewing, you do receive products in exchange for those reviews. That's kind of the least a company has to do if they want you to review their product is, not charge you for it. But the truth about Bot Wars is I think I would actually play a lot of Bot Wars, and I love painting them. They're great quality for small batch cast resin minis. Really good quality, really sharp, really nice clean details. I would play a lot more Bot War if it was a little bit more affordable over here. And that's, again, cannot state strongly enough, completely not Traders Galaxy's fault. It's handmade in Australia, and the most expensive country to ship to from Australia is England. It's not their fault I live in England. But it is a fucking great game, and if you can afford to play it, definitely play it because it's wonderful. Mikey, I generally refuse to go near PVC as well, to be honest, mate. But some things are worth it, and to me, BattleTech is worth the arse ache because it's just such an iconic game. It's a good color scheme, though. I might end up painting my mechs like that when I get the set in the next couple of days. That would be awesome. That's incredibly flattering that you would want to paint your force that way. I don't have like a final name for my mercenary company yet. I'm using the working name Shy's Sabres. But sorry. But I am planning to paint a full company in that color scheme. So that's going to be interesting to see how it pans out, going from painting 4 mechs in a session to painting another 8. And then obviously I'm going to be painting 12 in a single session for that commission in the same color scheme. But it is, I mean, it's a very effective color scheme. I'll be, you know, there's a reason I chose it. It looks the part. It creates a nice kind of grungy, semi-realistic, military-looking kind of scheme. And I think, like I said in the video, you know, I tend to gravitate towards that sort of thing in BattleTech. Like whenever I'm choosing the schemes for my mechs, I always sort of go for like military greens and khakis and beiges and stuff. I might get some bot war as well because delivery might be cheap compared to other things. Yeah, if you live in Oz, then bot war is totally affordable, and it's a really good game. Like it's proper 80s Saturday morning cartoon vibes. You know, when he first started his company, he was actually making a Transformers miniatures game under license, and that's what Bot Wars was born from. You are not locating well. Okay, I think I've got you. Yeah, I've got you. He stands up now. It's a good start. But yeah, it became, I think, for some reason, not viable. I don't know whether he lost the license or the license ended up getting passed to someone bigger, or he didn't, you know, I don't know exactly what the story is, but it ended up becoming an original IP. And he actually works really hard now to try to separate it from Transformers. He said that to me a lot. You know, he really tries to give it its own identity, which I think shows in the more recent additions to the game. But I also think, you know, like you said, it reminds you so much of the original Transformers cartoon. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I mean, the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe miniatures game came out fairly recently, and that has had incredibly good critical review. But it's also done well because it's fucking He-Man. You know, people really like, especially folks of my age, you know, sort of mid to late 30s. We really like being reminded of our childhood. A lot of us, you know, we play with toy soldiers because we're big kids at heart anyway. So things that remind us of when we were kids are generally very welcome. And I think it's great that Bot War does that. I think that's, you know, a really, really strong selling point. I think there's definitely, and again, you know, I'm not saying anything here that I haven't told Anthony in conversation, but I think there's definitely some brand identity development needed for Bot War. Like, you are not at all where you should be. How about that? Yeah, I think there's definitely. Is it supposed to be lifted up? Is that why? Right, there we go. Now it's standing. That'll do. As long as it's standing, I'm reasonably happy. As long as it fits on the base as well. Okay, that could be. Oh wait, no, it goes on the. It is the larger one, isn't it? I thought it was going to be the smaller one, but it wasn't. Two seconds. Doing a bit of thinking out loud. Apologise. Is it the size 2 or the size 3 that you go on, Mr. Eiffel? Size 3, yeah, it does go on the larger one. As long as it fits on here, which it does, then we are in business. Nice. I love these big bases. They feel, it's just something, I don't know, something about them just feels special. Like the miniature's almost on a display plinth at the same time. It's really cool. Really, really cool. It's a good looking miniature as well. If you didn't see the image earlier that I posted, there it is again. What it looks like painted up. Yeah, that's something we've spoken about, Beetle. He needs people in other countries to demo the game for him because he obviously can't get everywhere. But the thing is, he doesn't feel like he's very good at public appearances, public speaking, that kind of thing. And so he probably struggles to want to do that stuff for himself, I would imagine. But you know, community leaders from his player base, if they were to go to conventions, he would give them products to demo, and I absolutely know that for certain. And that's the thing, is people need to see it being played. It's a really good game, but people need to see it being played, and unless people see it being played, they are not going to understand what makes it special. But there's some incredibly ambitious miniatures in that range. You know, the kind of Megazord like combination robots are amazing, big resin kits. And there's just some really good sculpting, some really good mixtures of organic and mechanical sculpting going on. All round, just a very, very impressive game. I like Bot Wars a lot. Are you in the new Discord, Beetle, that just started for Bot War? It's really worth a join. I think it's public. I'm pretty sure it's public. Take care, Down Under. Thanks a lot for dropping in. Traders Galaxy Miniature Games. I think, yeah, it is public. Invite. Copy. There you go. If anybody's interested in learning more about Bot War, that's its Discord. The Discord. It's a new Discord. He only started it recently. But yeah, it's worth a visit. Ah, that was you. I remember now. I'm hoping you remember that it was me that was showing a really strong interest in those. Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. I love the look of the old Dystopian War stuff. The Beyond Sturginian Skies box is coming soon, and War Cradle have already said that they want to send me a copy of it to take a look at. And I'm actually really excited about that because, one, it creates clear road mapping for the game, which obviously is something I'm very keen on. But two, it includes the Iosum Colossi, which are like basically Titans, but their miniatures on the table are like these semi-submerged robots that are like crawling out, like, you know, walking out of the sea. So they're like submerged up to the waist, and you can only see the upper half of them with like their weapons and stuff. And I just thought to myself, that is such clever miniatures design. Like, you're a naval game set at sea with ships and airships and stuff like that. And you circumnavigate the challenge of putting bipeds into your game by having these titans that are essentially just walking on the ocean floor, and the upper half of them sticks out. Like, that's so clever. It's such inspired design. And yeah, it really made me buzz. I was very, very happy to see it. So all in all, I'm looking forward to, yeah, these legs have really not quite keyed into where they're supposed to. Those are submerged robots. Were in the first edition. They made models both in water and full models for land. Yes, yeah, because there is. You can have battles on land in that game, right? It's not like land doesn't exist. It's not like Waterworld or whatever. Okay, you're just staying like that. So that's him down. I am trying to be fairly careful when I build these as well. So the plan, and obviously I don't want to spoil too much for what I'm planning on being an upcoming video, but the plan is to mostly use Army Painter speed paints on these, which, if you know much about my painting philosophy, is probably quite surprising. And there is a reason for that, which, more will become clear on that soon enough. But I am planning on probably the character models, at least, doing a bit of extra above and beyond work after the speed paint. Again, I'm trying my best here to describe my plan without spoilering my end game, but it should be an interesting bit of paintwork in the end. But as a result, I do want to, because they're going to have a lot of speed paint on them, I do need to just be careful to be, reasonably thorough with the cleanup, so there's not too many obvious mold lines left over. More than anything, because when you work with those, speed paint / contrast paint kind of products, mold lines get really accentuated. Yes, all of that is happening indeed. Although, I'll tell you what, actually, I'm going to say something slightly controversial here. I think it's a mistake to admit fault in that situation, which they have done, and B, to reformulate. So I don't know how much you know about the story, but there was a big scandal basically because I think it was Squidmar, when he looked at them, made a big hoo-ha fuss about the paints reactivating. So if you get them wet before they've had a varnish over them, they reactivate. And I think, yeah, the Viejo Express paints will probably be, if any product like that ends up having a long-term appeal for me, it's probably going to be the Viejo one, because Viejo tends to be my go-to brand. So Squidmar kind of made a bit of a sensation out of it, from what I understand, and I didn't watch his video on the product, so this is purely hearsay. Sorry, Emil, if this is not what happened, but I think he made quite a big deal of it, from what I understand. And obviously, he's a very big YouTuber, so the net result of that was that it became a big talking point on the internet. And here's the thing. When I first found out about it, because it was made to be a big sensation, and I don't typically like those kind of products anyway, I was very much like, oh, that's a real fucking shame. I mean, obviously, I won't buy them, so I don't particularly care, but it's a bit shit for anyone that wants them, isn't it? God. And I didn't really think about it beyond that at the time. That was kind of the sum total of my thoughts on the subject. And then obviously recently I decided on a whim that I just wanted to check them out. I just wanted to actually give them a try and see what they were like. Especially because I don't normally like that kind of product. Oh, was it Juan? Okay. But here's the thing that I realized very immediately after using them. The reactivation is a feature, not a bug. Yes, exactly what Squad's just said. You can use it to feather out mistakes without having to repaint, and that's much quicker, much quicker. I don't think that they're perfect, but I think there's a place in the market for a product like that that needs a varnish over it to set it, but is reworkable until then. We already use oils, and oils are exactly like that. They're reworkable until they're sealed under varnish. Yeah, I feel like it got a bit of undue negativity, and I feel like it was very easy to give it undue negativity because a lot of people already had it in their heads like, oh, it's just fucking knockoff contrast paints anyway. And I think people were looking for reasons to be mad at it. And I don't necessarily think YouTube helped that. I think YouTube might have, which, you know, we all do it. We all make conclusions sometimes without fully considering every factor. I, as someone who doesn't like that kind of product, had every reason to find it to be terrible and to not want to use it. And I've actually been kind of vibing with it the last couple of days that I've been playing with it. And I've only played with it a little bit. You know, I'm by no means in a position where I have a complete experience yet. But I'm kind of vibing with it. I'm kind of digging it. And that's as much a surprise to me as it probably would be to anyone else. But it's a real shame that YouTube sort of had this negativity chain reaction about the product based on the reactivation, and that no one really raised to the point that the reactivation might actually be one of the best things about it in some regards. And when I make my video, that's actually one of the things that I want to mention, is that I think the reactivation was maybe a little bit sensationalized, and that when you stop and think about it, it's actually kind of handy. At the end of the day, best practice dictates that we should be varnishing our miniatures anyway. Now, I get that with plastics, that's far less essential. You can definitely get away with not varnishing plastics. Totally understand that. But as a general rule of thumb, it is considered best practice to varnish miniatures after painting them anyway. So, like, if they need a seal of varnish after painting to stop them from reactivating, that shouldn't be considered a problem. Yeah, I'm mostly a Vallejo guy. I do a little bit of oil work, but the fact that you can do that whole subtractive painting with an acrylic-based product, yeah, one of my patrons was saying this. We were talking about it in Discord yesterday, and Dakar, one of my patrons, was saying the exact same thing, like being able to do a subtractive painting with an acrylic-based product is actually kind of a game changer. He was saying that he uses like the brown in a similar way to how you would use streaking grime, which is obviously an enamel-based product. I could definitely see how that would work, and I actually think that's really cool. So yeah, I actually kind of think it's a shame that Army Painter have kind of been put under this pressure to reformulate the product, and I think the community might have actually screwed itself out of a really useful and unique product there, and they're going to end up with something that's far more generic and that separates the product from its competitors a lot less. And that's something I'm going to be talking about in my video, and I really hope that Army Painter actually see it and take that on board, because I think that no one is talking about that. No one has mentioned that. And I don't know. I guess I feel a little bit sorry for Army Painter. I feel a bit like they've been kind of bullied into changing their product, and that they may not have realised how potentially special a product they have. As a matter of curiosity, I know there's not a ton of people watching right now, but what are people playing at the moment, miniatures games wise? What are people actually vibing on at the moment? I know my channel tends to attract a lot of BattleTech and Infinity fans, but I also know that my channel tends to attract a lot of people who, like me, play a lot of different games, don't just play one game. So always makes me curious to know what you folks are vibing with at the time. Doesn't have to be unique if no one buys it. There are great games that don't get enough attention. Right, but that's kind of my point, is that I think people aren't buying it because they don't understand, or they haven't been told, or it hasn't been broadly discussed that that reactivation could actually be a feature, not a bug. I haven't heard anyone with a platform make that point. All I've heard is everyone with a platform that's mentioned it complain about that. Dead Zone, that's Mantic Games, isn't it? A company that I plan to explore at some point, but haven't really looked into yet. They are definitely on my list, though. Is Dead Zone? No, Firefight's the skirmish that uses the cube system, isn't it? Which one is Dead Zone? Is that mass battle or is it skirmish? Oh, it's a little cyber dog head that she's holding. Trying to figure out what it was she was holding. It's a little head of a cyber dog. Little K9 robot. Not really a minigame, more a board game. We're playing Zombicide Green Horde campaign. Nice. Zombicide's great. That's one that I plan to put under Jenny's nose at some point and see how she takes to it. But I know that you're very good at absolutely crushing through those board games. So I'm sure you've been having a good time with it. Dead Zone is the skirmish game. Firefight is the mid-sized mass battle game. I thought Firefight was the skirmish game that used cubes. Or am I just correct about the cubes thing and wrong about the size of the game? That would be a me thing to mix up two different things. That would be a classic me thing. Dead Zone uses cubes. Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah, it must be Dead Zone that I was watching reviews and stuff for then, and a bit of gameplay footage for. Yeah, it does look fun. That movement system looks pretty interesting. Like the idea of a movement system that grants that much freedom. One of the things I really like about Carnivale, it's not the same sort of deal by any means. Carnivale is very much, measure in place, but it has a lot of special movement actions built in that are designed to allow you to essentially do parkour. The Drown Earth is also like that. I really like that as a design feature. These games that kind of encourage you to be a bit more creative in the movement phase. Um, there can be a tendency in game design for the movement phase to be very looked over. Yeah, verticality is very useful, very integral. Right, that's Emily Newgier done. Copy link address. So the one that I've just finished building is yeah, I definitely like that that little extra bit of effort put into considering the movement phase. Are those mechanical eyeballs in her hair? I'm not sure. Are they? I think they're lenses. I think they're kind of. I think one's like a little swing over monocle, and the other's a pair of goggles. Hey, Fraze, how you doing? Good to see you, mate. I'll tell you what, it's nice. I always forget how pleasant streaming can be. I don't stream that often, and there's a few reasons. I don't think I'm super great at it, to be honest. I'll be completely truthful with you. I think um, I'm a very reactive person by nature, so I'm not super great at stopping and thinking about what I'm about to say. But also, I think sometimes it can be really difficult to trade off like productivity with um, engaging content and streaming. Oh no, don't you fall. Don't you fall. Oh god. Oh god. I've got to go looking for a head. I'll be back in a second. Hopefully I'll remember what I was saying. I heard where it went. Whether or not I'm going to be able to find it is a different question. Oh no. You were over here somewhere. I heard you. Oh man. It's like a head as well. It's not a part that you can just kind of leave off. Oh no! Oh, I hate that when you clip something off a sprue and it pings. Oh, I found it. I fucking found it. Yes! Get in. So yeah, as I was saying, like sometimes juggling productivity with streaming can be tricky. And I find that when I'm painting, I find it very hard to work at a speed that I'm happy with and stream. But when I'm doing stuff like building, I should try to remember to stream more because I tell you what, actually, I don't like building. I've said this before. I really don't like building. And streaming makes it a lot easier to actually keep going, even though I find the act very boring. It's way easier to just push through and finish the builds when you're chatting at the same time. Chill streams with a bit of conversation are always good. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is, you know, keeping a good flow of conversation is kind of the art of streaming, isn't it? You know, creating space for people to contribute what they want to say, whilst at the same time not creating so much dead space that it isn't entertaining for people. And that, I think, is the real art to stream. And some people that comes very naturally to them, really bloody good at it. I don't feel like I'm one of those people. I don't feel like I have the natural talent for that set of skills. Yeah, start to make a list of the benefits of streaming and lose a head. Fortunately, this is I have terracotta tiling in this room. So as soon as it pinged, I was like, oh fuck, that's going to bounce to like the moon. There's no way I'm ever finding it. Fortunately, it didn't go very far. I heard where it landed, so I knew roughly what area to look in, and it didn't go very far. So I feel like I got really lucky there. Really, really lucky. So I've got the, this is the big two-headed mutant next. Again, I can find an image and get you an image. Close that, open that. So this guy he's actually quite a lot bigger than he looks in the image. He's like a super mutant from Fallout, basically, with two heads. And he's called Smash and Grab. So presumably the robot side that's got the pincher claw would be Grab, and the humanoid face that's got the hammer would be Smash. And again, that is just the right amount of cheesy for me. That is, when it comes to game design, that is the right amount of corny to just, you know, make me like, that's cool, instead of being like, that's lame. So yeah, well done to them for landing on the right side of corny. I have to say, the more I dive into this box, this game, the universe that it's built around, I actually really think this could be a very successful game. It's a really good universe, and I think that there's a lot of potential in this to be a popular skirmish game. I mean, steampunk as a genre, it's still popular, you know. It's still popular with the cosplayers, and it's still popular with the tabletop role players, and it ain't going anywhere. So a steampunk game, especially a nice light skirmish game. I mean, this is a 90 quid starter box, or I sell it for 90 quid. I think the RRP is 94, but on my store it's 90. And in it, you get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 22. So you get 22 miniatures, templates, 2 card decks, all the bases and stuff, and the rule books. I think that's pretty reasonable for a 90 quid starter box. I think that's all right. It's probably not the best value starter box I've ever seen, but you know, good quality miniatures, plenty of them. A lot of skirmish games, you know, when you first buy in, the starter box is often kind of lacking in quantity, you know, irrespective of the quality. The quantity is often where you're left wanting. But they seem to have actually made a conscious effort here to provide a good number of miniatures, so that you actually get a proper playable experience out of the box. And I really like that. That is, again, if you've seen the way that I review products before, that is kind of one of the things that I look for, is how representative the out of the box experience is to play in the actual game. So for example, at the lowest end of that scale is something like 40k, where the starter box doesn't even show you the smallest typically played game size. Like, you don't even get 500 points aside in the starter box. You might, the Space Marine side of the biggest starter box might just about be 500 points, because 10 intercessors is about 300, isn't it? So maybe the Space Marine side, but I'd be very surprised if the Necron side is. But then, at the highest end of that scale, for example, so like Infinity probably rates around the middle. So you get like 7 models aside, and you generally are going to play with at least 10 models aside. So you get a fairly representative experience of the smaller side of the game, but not the most typically played size of game. But yeah, again, the thing that pushes the Code 1 boxes, the Infinity boxes, the thing that really pushes them up in rankings is that you get nice scenery and you get enough of it to play the game size that the miniatures provide you with. You will want additional scenery again when you're playing those full-size games, but that's to be expected. So, like, I think Code 1 does very well in that regard. It probably rates at like the upper medium tier for me. And then, probably at the top of the tier are games like this, where you get 2 full-size crews, but you don't get any scenery. Because scenery is a bit of a weird one. I personally don't particularly like making scenery from scratch, but obviously it is very cheap and a lot of people really enjoy doing it. So to me, I'd rather a game came with the full number of minis and left the gamer to deal with the scenery side, because even though for me personally that's not ideal, for me personally it coming with scenery is much better, because I don't really like scratch making scenery, and buying made scenery is expensive. So for me personally, it's better when it comes with the scenery. But I think for the broadest number of gamers, because most people are happy to either just use whatever scenery they've got, or make scenery from like foam core and cereal packets, or don't mind buying scenery if they like the game, that kind of thing. Because most people tend to fall into one of those categories, I would rather see games that come with full-sized forces, especially when it comes to skirmish games, and leave the scenery out. I would prefer Infinity to do that. Instead of having the Beyond boxes, I'd rather we got 20 miniatures and no scenery, personally. Not that that's better for me. It's definitely not better for me personally, but I do think it's better for most people. Where it gets a little bit tricky with specifically Infinity, though, is that Infinity is probably the most terrain-heavy skirmish game on the market. Because Infinity isn't really a skirmish game. It is a low model count game, but it's not really a skirmish game. It doesn't have a lot of the simplicity and shallowness that skirmish games usually represent. You can make terrain from PLA. What's the process like for that? Like, what are you printing in PLA, or do you mean like you're buying sheet PLA and cutting it down, or how does that work? 3D printing in PLA, yeah. PLA is a very good material for printing terrain in. Very, very good material. I need to get, at some point, I need to find the space in the hobby budget to get a new FDM printer. I liked my old one, but because it was a very entry-level model, I very quickly became too ambitious for it to really be suitable for what I was trying to do. And it got to the point where it was just more frustration trying to use it for things that it just wasn't designed to handle, which eventually led to me just giving it to my brother and deciding that at some point I'll buy a new one. I think I've now reached that point where I need to look for a new one. Would make sense in that case to trade the scenery in the boxes for the minis, and new players can pick up the scenery packs if they need. Exactly, yeah. I would prefer Corvus Belli to do that personally. That's like my only real criticism of the Code One battle boxes. That's like the only thing about them that I really don't like, is I think they would be better as 20 minis, no scenery, and then sell the scenery pack for an extra 30, 40 quid. So like they'd still be getting the same amount of money, but the players who either have scenery or don't care so much about what the scenery looks like, which I do think is a pretty wide cross-section of players, they benefit more from getting more miniatures. And it also then brings the box set into that realm of the box actually represents a realistic game size, because Code One is obviously 10 model limit. So having 20 models in the starter box would mean that you have a 10 model force. Like there's still plenty of incentive there to collect, right? Because you know what it's like with Infinity. Like it's not just about having enough profiles to fill a list. It's about swapping in and out different profiles and experimenting. Cruisers are good. I have an Ender 3 Pro heavily modified, but it is entry level. Cruisers make higher quality workhorses. That's interesting. Folks, I'll be right back. I don't have a way to actually pause this camera for a second because this is literally a YouTube webcam stream. I'm not even using any encoding software here because this was very impromptu. So you are just going to unfortunately be looking at the room for a second, but I'm just going to nip for a wait. I'll only be 2 seconds and then I'll be back. Okay. Stream needs more cats. He's hiding, unfortunately. Hey, James. How you doing, bud? Happy Saturday, mate. Oh, I've got a WhatsApp. That'll be my beloved. Okay. Yeah, I agree the stream does need more cats, but he's in a very weird mood today. He was sniffing around for a little while earlier, but as soon as I went live, he disappeared. He got stage fright and he buggered off. So I think he's going to reappear. And the other one, you just will never see. Micron picks up a lot. Really? Why? What's it catching? Did it catch like the toilet flushing or something? Yeah, it's not the best streaming setup. To be fair, I mean, it is literally a webcam, and like I said, I'm not even using encoding software. I'm literally casting my webcam to YouTube, which is a thing that I didn't even know you could do that. I literally found out I was today years old when I found out that was a thing you could do. So I have like no BRB screen set up or anything. If I do decide to start streaming more regularly, and I threaten this and then don't, and then threaten it and then don't. But if I do decide to start streaming more regularly, I will obviously set up OBS. with some cards, like a welcome card and a be right back card and stuff like that. And I'll set up some stream transitions and that kind of thing. But truth be told, I prefer to stream when Jen's out so that she doesn't have to like tippy toe around the computer and stuff. So I don't know that I would really stream often enough for it to be worth going to that effort anyway. It depends. I don't know. It's definitely something I need to think about a bit more though. Because this is nice, you know, hanging out with people that watch the channel and being able to just chill and build miniatures. And for anyone who's wondering what I'm building at the moment, this is the miniature I'm now working on. I will sort of paste that link periodically whenever new people show up. Where my aim is to build as much of the Wild West Exodus box as I can get through. The instructions seem to want you to build all the characters first, which is fine with me. But there is a bit of rank and file as well. Yeah, I think in the case of what I want to do, like this, you know, hang out, build, and just catch up with my audience is kind of all I really would use streaming for. Streaming will never be my main form of content for reasons previously discussed. So there's definitely no need to over-engineer it. You know, that just isn't beneficial to me, and it's not really beneficial to y'all as the viewer either. It doesn't really do anything for you. Because, you know, for something like this, for example, I'm not going to put a down cam so that you can see like right close up what I'm doing. You know, if I want to give you a zoom, my camera can actually zoom reasonably well just in software. So I can do this and then this. And at that point, I can actually give you a bit of a zoom if I ever want to show you stuff. Obviously, it's not, you know, it's not the greatest quality in the world. In fact, if I come out a bit more, it'll probably look a bit better. Yeah, you know, somewhere around there, at least it can kind of almost focus and show you. But I personally think it's just as easy to just show you the images that I'm pasting into chat. I actually think that that's fine for when I'm building stuff. I don't think you really need to see like real time of me doing it. Maybe still a little bit. There we go. That's better. Yeah, but the hope is that I can get at least break the back of building this box today, because I really need to start knuckling down with getting some of these games ready to paint so that I can start testing them. I really want to do more battle report content on the channel. So here's the thing. This is the thing. I'm very keen to do more battle report content on the channel, but there's a couple of things about it. I don't think first plays necessarily make great bat reps, because it ends up being a lot of start and stop where you have to edit out, constantly checking rule books and stuff like that. And so I think it kind of destroys the fluidity of the battle report. And when you look at good battle reports, when you look at like the Fast Panda guys, you look at Mini Wargaming, you look at Ash Barker, all these channels that are good at battle reports, you know, they're very good at kind of making things feel fluid and kind of a constant stream of action. But obviously, if we accept if we accept it as truth that first plays or plays with little experience don't lead to the best battle reports, then we also acknowledge that I need to kind of know the games a bit better before I bat rep them. And that means that I need to get stuff ready to go, start getting some reps in, start getting familiar with the game, so that I can get to that position. And it may be, after a little bit of experimentation, it may be that the decision I end up making is actually a separate channel for bat reps. But that is something I've kind of considered. But whatever way it shakes out, I want to be in a better position to be prepared for that kind of content. The other big obstacle, though, and this is kind of the more troubling one for me personally, is that really you kind of want two cameras. You want like a fixed camera and a hand camera, and it's also a really long time of editing. So I've done one battle report ever, and it was for a game of Aristea. And a game of Aristea normally takes us about 90 minutes to play, and that battle report took us about 3.5 hours to record, and then it took me 3 days to edit it, which is obviously a very, very long time to spend not painting when you're a commission painter. So that's my other concern with bat reps, is the editing time. And so eventually getting to a point, something that I thought about was maybe doing kind of a condensed, not so much bat reps as such, but like playing the game and then doing a gameplay review. So showing some of the interactions, showing why and when you roll dice and how that all kind of plays out, but more in the format of like reviewing the play experience. So this box and the Dystopian Wars boxes are the first two that I want to guinea pig that with. But I'll probably consider doing it with Rumble Slam as well, because that's a favorite. And so I need to get these built, and I need to get paint on them pretty sharpish too, which, I've already whinged enough about how strapped for time I am. You can imagine it's quite a daunting task. Man, that is a cool ass miniature. That is a really fucking cool miniature. I'm a fan of this miniature. You've seen Zombie Sashimi's Defiance vids, he doesn't... Yeah, I'll tell you what, right? And this is no insult to Zombie Sashimi. Again, he's another creator that I talk to on social media every now and again. I really like the guy. But his painting videos are what you would kind of classify more as like the lower end of effort. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I'm saying it's not insulting. I make low effort content as well. I have, my staples that are low effort and my staples that require more effort. Every content creator should have low and high effort staples so that they can make stuff based on what time is available to them. And based on only ever seeing his painting videos, I didn't have much of an expectation when I first saw that he was doing Defiance playthroughs. And then when I saw them, I was so impressed. They're like really good, really, really good. And it goes to show, doesn't it, that, people kind of have different strengths, and he obviously knows what's up and what he is well set up to do. Do a lot of people watch battle reports? I love people talking about the hobbies, but I can't get into watching people play a game I'm not in. Battle report content is really popular, like really popular. I would probably go as far as to say, if it's not the most popular type of gaming content. It's at least as popular as painting tutorials. I actually think a lot of people don't like watching painting tutorials specifically because they either like doing it their own way, or they're very much in that entrenched kind of paint GW way camp. So unless the tutorial comes from GW, they kind of don't see it as valid. Whereas I think with a bat rep, like anyone who's just curious to see what gameplay of a game looks like, what the sort of play patterns are, it's kind of ideal, right? Like it's a bit of a no-brainer. Just watch a cheeky bat rep and see if the play patterns look like fun, and if they do, then boom. Like it was actually watching Tabletop Tactics playing 8th edition 40k that made me decide I wanted to actually play 8th edition 40k and not just paint. Like I was getting back into painting at the time, but it was their bat reps for 8th edition 40k that made me decide I wanted to start actually playing again. What a mistake that turned out to be, but you know, what can you do? What can you do? Like the game managed to stay good for 1 edition, right? You gotta give them that. It was which one? This one. Yeah, but it was those battle reports that actually attracted me to play the game. So I definitely think that battle reports are a thing people like. I definitely think there's a lot of scope there to grow the audience. So, little inside behind the curtain secret. My goal for this year was to hit 10k subs by the end of the year. Based on the regular number of subs that I generate in a month, I'm probably going to fall short of that goal by like a really shitty small amount. I'm probably going to be like 100 to 200 subs short, which is fucking lame, you know, to fall so short of such an achievable goal. But at the end of the day, like my house move was so protracted that I pretty much missed like 3 months of stable content creation, and I would have easily crushed my target if I hadn't have missed that time. So it's not like it makes me feel like I've failed at anything, but it is obviously disappointing. And so, you know, my response to that is I am going to work even harder to grow the channel. And so I want to have some plans in place next year for some content that I think will help with that goal of growing the channel. Like I definitely have ambitions to make better content and to make more of it. I'm really determined to get as good as I can get at this. I love making these videos. Like I even enjoy the editing process, which is something that traditionally would not be my cup of tea at all. And so, you know, I want to pursue how far I can go with it. I want to do as well as I can do with it. And that setback of missing my annual goal is not really gonna let it slow me down, because I know exactly why it happened. It happened because a lot of the videos that I wanted to make this year I didn't get to make this year because my house move took 3 months instead of 2 weeks. You know, what can you do? What can you do? I'm here now. I'm in the new house now. It's lovely. I really love being here. My new office is massive. I don't know whether any of y'all saw the Instagram post where I showed off my new office, but it has so much room for activities. It's pretty incredible. Nicola Tesla's the other size too. That was my door. I don't think someone is here. I think someone just put something through the door, but I'm just going to go check. Yeah, it was just some junk mail. Just some junk mail through the door. Nothing to worry about. But yeah, it was, it was kind of interesting taking stock of that and realizing, I only kind of really realized this week that I probably wasn't going to hit that goal. And I am gutted. Like, I'm going to have a bit of a miracle now. I'm going to have another video pop off and go semi-viral. I think I've had 3 in the history of the channel kind of pop off and go semi-viral. Get like 50k plus views kind of thing. If I manage another one of those, then yeah, I'll easily hit the goal. But I've got, 2 months to gain 600 subs, and my sub count usually goes up by about 200 a month. So at normal upload schedule, I'm going to fall short by about 200. Which is, on the upside, if you're a fan of the channel, if you love the channel and you're into what I am trying to achieve here, trying to create a more even-handed view of the hobby environment, trying to encourage people to let go of silly notions like, if I play this independent game, nobody else will play it with me. Trying to just kind of shine a light on some of the lesser known games and game developers. If that kind of thing resonates with you and you enjoy it and you want to stick around and you want to help support the growth of the channel, then the best thing you can do is make sure you're subscribed and make sure you tell your friends to subscribe. I am very much the type of content creator who wants to make the kind of content that you want to watch. And, if you feedback to me the kind of stuff you want to see, whether that be in comments, whether that be by joining my Patreon and talking to me on Discord, if you feedback, then I generally take all of your suggestions seriously. And a lot of the videos I make are Patreon suggestions or viewer suggestions from comments. What were the semi-viral videos? So there was the 5 alternatives to 40k. The BattleTech first impressions and the BattleTech is the grass greener than 40k. They all did good numbers. And I think they're all, not necessarily in terms of production value, but in terms of what they bring to the conversation, I think they're all good videos. Unfortunately, they were made at the time where I wasn't so much just feeling let down and disappointed by GW. I was actually feeling pretty angry towards them, which is a shame, Anger as an emotion is temporary, it passes. But anything that you say and do whilst you're angry will be remembered. And when you document it in a video, that's especially unfortunate. Because, there are definitely things about GW that still wind me up. But I'm not as sort of vitriolic, pissed off as I once was. I'm a lot more accepting that, a lot of the shit that they do is just the way that they do shit, and most people fall for it because they don't know better. Because that's kind of the unfortunate thing with G-dubs, is that they have such a stranglehold on the market that a lot of people don't realize that they're being mistreated because they don't have any frame of reference for how other games companies sell their products. They don't realize that it's not normal to like pay for rules, for example. Most Warhammer players think that it's normal to pay for rules, and actually something interesting is that there was a survey a while back about this, and most Warhammer players would be really disappointed if codexes disappeared. I actually think codexes can and should have a place. I just don't think that they should be the only way to buy the rules. That's kind of my opinion on the subject. But there are a lot of normalities created in the GW ecosystem that aren't normal at all outside of it. But outside of that, I kind of reached, I've sort of evolved my feelings to that point now where I just sort of mostly just don't really care. Like, I don't think 40k is a particularly good game. I don't actually think GW really make any good games at the moment. So, like, kind of just don't care. What I do care about is like people being taken advantage of, and that's kind of why I still can be quite critical of G Dubs at times. I try to maybe not be as into that these days. I actually did that, squad. I actually have that video. That video already exists, and it's got woefully low view numbers. In fact, that it came up in Discord recently. And I shared a link to it in Discord recently. But yeah, like I try these days to not kind of bang the drum too much about how much GW pissed me off. Because really it is GW. When it comes to the games themselves, I kind of just don't give a shit because they're just not very good games in my opinion. They're not, they're not particularly engaging rules systems. They're not particularly fun to me. So, like, what's the point in wasting energy caring about them? But at the same time, like, I will never stop caring about any company's mistreating their audience. So, if they do stuff that I actually feel is like bad for the community, then obviously, that's where you will hear me speak up and say something. And that's because I kind of think, content creators sort of have a responsibility to do that, right? If the people with platforms aren't going to talk about subjects, then when are they going to be talked about? When is there going to be an opportunity to discuss things if the people with platforms don't raise the topics in the first place as points of discussion? Like, it goes back to sort of that mentality of like just ranting down the pub with your mates about something doesn't fucking solve anything. It just makes you feel better. Do you know what I mean? Whereas even with my very meager follower count of just under 10K, I'm still in a position where I can actually like communicate something to a meaningful number of people. And so I think, you have to accept a certain degree of responsibility to talk about subjects like that, even if it is sometimes a bit shit. Like I do, I feel sorry for. I mean, there are definitely channels that go in way, way harder than I do on giving GW a hard time. But like I do, I do feel bad that like sometimes I have to. I feel I have to make a video. I feel compelled to make a video that if somebody else watches it who loves the thing that I'm about to talk shit about, that's going to make them feel bad. Like, I don't like that. I don't want to ever have to do that. But you have to talk about the things that you think are important. And you have to make enough noise to drown out the people that just crybaby about clout chasing. So, what can you do? What can you do? Hey, John, how you doing? B Covenant starting to see a trend there. What do you mean? What, like channels that talk shit about GW? I think it is kind of becoming a thing. I think it is almost becoming like a subgenre within the hobby these days, which is kind of why I do less of it, to be honest, because it's not like a main focus of mine. So my the reason I have my YouTube channel in the first place is to try and make the hobby as accessible as possible. That's my mission statement. All I ever want to do is to try and contribute to making the hobby more accessible, removing barriers. Now, obviously, the problem with the whole G-dubs thing is that sometimes G-dubs are the barrier, and that's why they sometimes have to be talked about. That's sometimes why I feel compelled to weigh in, because sometimes they are the problem, but they're not always the problem. And it definitely got to a point where I was kind of getting a bit like so wound up with them that I was almost kind of almost sort of didn't have much else to talk about. And that started to bother me even more because what I want to do is help people. Um, and when it started to become a bit of a trend on YouTube for channels to just kind of cuss out G Dubs constantly, um, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to want to stick to that. Yeah, you can get tunnel vision on negativity. Exactly, you can get a bit too caught up in it. Um, and so that's definitely why these days I've decided to just try and focus more on the things that make me feel good, hoping that I can kind of pass that energy on to other people. But there will always be times where I feel like I have to step in and speak up, because I feel like GW might have done something that actually could potentially cause harm to members of the community. Hobbies: collecting, painting, modeling, kit bashing, playing. These are a collection of hobbies. I don't play GW, but I would love to build and paint a knight. Yeah, totally fair enough. I really dig knights too. I honestly really understand that fascination. I think that they are like those kind of remarkably large plastic kits. There's something very obviously attractive about painting one of those, building one of those, being able to show one of those off. Like, it's not hard to see why that's appealing, right? I just realized I didn't actually show off the current miniature that we're building. We're building Nikola Tesla now. So this is Nikola Tesla as imagined in the Wild West Exodus universe. I can't pay that much for one. If I can't pay that much for one model kit, I can get a dozen band. Yeah, well, yeah. This is the issue, isn't it? It is like knights are, as much as they are, in the context of Warhammer specifically, they're like really impressive, big, dominating, awesome miniatures. But they're not even close to the technical competence of the Bandai kit, and you can buy like a bunch of Bandai kits for the price of one knight. And so, when your eyes are open to that kind of broader spectrum of what's available, it becomes much harder to look favorably at the GW products, right? And it's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like you want to give things the benefit of the doubt, and you want to like let people enjoy things and encourage people to enjoy things. Like that shit's so important to me. But at the same time, I'm not going to like confirm somebody's bias that a knight is good value. A knight is terrible value. It's like 4 times the cost of a Gundam at least, and a Gundam is a way more technically demanding kit in terms of like its production quality and the overall sort of quality of the finished product. It's like way more technically demanding. So I'm not gonna bullshit my audience that like I think it's good value for money or whatever. Gave up on GW models years ago. Many other companies make better fitting and quality models. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I actually don't think GW are an industry leader in quality. And it's something you tend to see in most industries. I think in most industries, fans of the industry leader will claim that the industry leader is the best, but they almost never are. The industry leaders are very rarely the people making the best product. The industry leaders are always, in almost every single industry, the people who are making the most profitable product, because that gives them the money to market the product to make it successful. And GW, I think if you're being as fair and realistic as possible, they make slightly above average model kits. They have some exceptional pieces. They also have some kind of garbage stuff, but their average stuff is pretty decent. It's 6.5, 7 out of 10 in terms of quality compared to everything else that's on the market. If you actually hold them up against everything else, but like in price, they're like a 2 or a 3. The quality of the rules, they're like a 3 or a 4. The IP is obviously a 10. The IP is, incredible, and no one can ever take that away from them. The IP is very attractive, and that carries a lot of the other stuff. It makes people be very forgiving of a lot of the other stuff, and the fanaticism that comes along with uh, GW means that a lot of people just never try the alternatives, so they never know. They never have any frame of reference. They just assume GW is the best because it's what they've always been told. And that was me. Like, I was one of those people for most of my life. I've been hobbying for 31 years now, and I've only been into the independent scene for like 4 of those, and only seriously into the independent scene for 2 of those. I knew nothing about the independent scene prior to like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I knew nothing. And I am now entirely convinced that the independent scene is something that we should cherish and lift up and do everything that we can to give more exposure to, because there are some incredible miniatures and incredible games out there that are just completely overshadowed by what is actually quite a mediocre and very expensive product. And that's, really hard to hear if you're a fan of Warhammer, which is why I don't like to bang on about it too much these days. Because if you're a fan of Warhammer, that's gonna sting to hear someone say that. You're obviously going to disagree, and you're obviously going to try and defend that product. And that's what I don't like, is it just ends up becoming like a culture war. It ends up becoming an argument because people feel personally insulted by you being critical of something that they're invested in. Yeah, Beetle, my Tesla's not going to be those colours. Definitely not. I'll probably do him red, to be honest. I think it'll make a better clash with all the lightning colours. Some of the Gundam modelers are ridiculous. The talent level in the Gundam community just puts the miniature wargaming community to absolute shame. It is like, I consider myself, above average in the miniature wargaming community in terms of my skill level. I don't think I'm one of the best, but I think I'm all right. I look like an idiot child compared to your average Gundam modelist. The Gunpla hobby people are just insane levels of precision and attention to detail. It is incredible. Bandai had the seams and spruce lights in the model, and no cleanup. Well, very little cleanup at least. Yeah, you'll want some abrasive pads, but yeah, very little cleanup. I agree. I played BattleTech before 40k hit the market. I love BattleTech. BattleTech's fucking great. We were talking about it earlier in the stream. To be honest, it's a wonderful game. Shit quality miniatures in like the greater, broader comparison, because they're PVC models, which are a pain in the ass to paint. But they look fine. But the game is just great, and the lore is wonderful. It's so deep, so deep. I'm a fan of Warhammer, but not of GW and its practices. I would agree. I would say that that's exactly what I am. Like, I'm currently listening to one of the latest Warhammer audiobooks. I listen to Warhammer audiobooks almost every week. I really like the universe of Warhammer, but I just don't like the game. And I don't like the game company these days. Like, those two things just don't align with my personal beliefs and my desires to see a more educated, exposed community. Yeah, the Rail Pathos era BattleTech stuff wasn't good. I've got a video where I did a Shadow Hawk, and it's not a great miniature. The Ironwind stuff is all right. It's it's still hand sculpted metal, but it's a little bit better hand sculpted metal. But yeah, the CGL PVCs are better than anything BattleTech's had previously. I actually think some of your best quality mechs that are out there at the moment in terms of the sculpts are the things that some of the 3D printing studios are doing. The problem is that a lot of them aren't supplied as like supported files, so they're quite hard to get them to print well. The actual sculpt is fantastic, but they're quite tricky to get them to print well. So here's the thing with Shadowhawk. It used to be one of my favorite mechs when I first got into BattleTech, because Grayson Death Carlisle has a Shadowhawk at the end of Decision at Thunder Rift. He captures a Shadowhawk. So based literally on that alone, it was one of my favorite mechs. Then I played Harebrained Schemes BattleTech. Then I played some of the MechWarrior 5. And through those games, I very quickly came to realize that the Shadowhawk is a fucking terrible mech that no one should ever voluntarily pilot. It is a death trap waiting to happen. And where do you actually fix? There doesn't appear to be any like hard points. So you've got these like electrical energy, like Tesla energy kind of zappy shoots coming off of the miniature. I'm just trying to figure out like where they're supposed to, like, it looks like you're just supposed to kind of glue them wherever you like to the sides of the miniature. Which is obviously kind of not ideal. This one's supposed to have, right, so this one goes under his knee. Ah, right, so you connect there. So you've actually got an anchor point. Like there. Okay. So we'll glue you on first because you've actually got an anchor point. I knew as soon as I saw these, I knew they'd be a bit tricky. They're just like little lightning bolts that you have to glue to various parts of the model to stand him up on. And again, you know, like G-dubs have done this kind of thing in their model design a million times. It's nothing new to see it in model design. But it can be incredibly tricky to glue pieces like this to a model. So this faces this way. But where does it glue? Somewhere around the knee appears to be where it wants to join. Let's see here. Oh, it wants to face forward? No, that bit faces forward. Like, oh, you tricky bugger. You tricky, tricky bugger. So I think, like, I can just kind of brute force it on. Oh, actually, I think that is how it's supposed to go on. Because it's kind of sculpted. Sure. Does checking the painted model help locate attachment points? Yeah, it kind of does. Never played Wildwest Exodus, but I really, really want to paint. Yeah. I put the Wayward 8 up on my store like as soon as they were one of the first things when I opened my account with War Cradle that I listed on my store, because they are fucking stellar. Absolutely stellar. I really like them. I'm a big Firefly fan anyway, like a really, really big Firefly fan. So it was no difficulty whatsoever to persuade myself that that was one of the kits that I was interested in from the Wildwest Exodus range. Right, hang on. Something like that. Yeah, got it. Right. Okay, once that dries, cool. I knew this would be the trickiest model of the lot. Okay, I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'm actually going to get it fixed to the base now and kind of work the other pieces around it. How can I even rest this? Can I rest it like that? Yeah, that works. Okay, I'm just going to leave that to dry for a minute before I touch it. Yeah, so the game, War Cradle contacted me a couple of months ago and asked me if I would be interested in receiving the new Dystopian Wars box set to do a review on. And I said, well, the universe really interests me. It was actually Wildwest Exodus that I was planning to look at. I was planning to buy a copy of the box and do some review based content on it. You know, really kind of give it a good looking over. And I sort of followed that up by saying, you know, I'd be delighted to have a look at Dystopian Wars for you, because I kind of figured what it would let me do is have a look at the quality of their models. And I certainly like the universe. I certainly like the models that are in that box. And the end result is actually that I've become quite interested in Dystopian Wars, even though Wildwest Exodus is the game that I'm far more interested in. I've definitely developed a bit of an interest for Dystopian Wars. I'm definitely planning to paint the entire box set, play it, and I'm going to be doing a review of Beyond Sturginium Skies when that comes out as well. War Cradle are also sending that to me. But in the back of my head, the whole time that all of that was going on, I was like, you know, I'm not in an ungrateful way. I'm still obviously willing to pay for it, and I have paid for it. I bought this with my own money. But in the back of my head, I was still kind of thinking the whole time, like, I'd really love to do a fucking Wild West Exodus review, build, bit of gameplay, that kind of thing. And so when I opened my War Cradle account to start reselling, which was a product of doing that review and realizing how good quality the miniatures and the games were, the first thing I bought for myself was a copy of Wild West Exodus so that I could then do the same sort of content on that and put myself in a position where I would be selling that product based on my own experience of it. And so that's kind of the thing with WWX is I am invested in it myself, and that is kind of why it's a product that I'm selling. Whereas Dystopian Wars, I kind of wasn't initially invested in it, but I've become interested in it. Anyway, I will be right back because I need a wee again. I have a child's bladder. I might just make a cup of tea while I'm in the kitchen, then come back and talk to you. I'll just come back and continue chatting while the kettle boils. So yeah, one of the things actually in particular that I love about Wild West Exodus is the inclusion of some of the legendary gunslingers. So stuff like the Wayward Eight is really cool. It's the crew of the Serenity, based around the time of Serenity the movie. But I also happen to love a lot of the old cowboy stories, and a lot of the legendary gunslingers from the American West are featured in their sort of dystopian steampunk reimaginings within the game. So you've got like Billy the Kid, Jose Chavez, E. Chavez, Pat Garrett, who, if you're familiar with the Young Guns films, you will see all of those. You will know all of those characters, should I say. Obviously, you've got Gustav Eiffel, and Nikola Tesla in this box as two famous characters. You've got who else did I see? Jesse James. I believe there was a crew built around Jesse James. Who are the brothers from Tombstone? You know the Tombstone story, the gunfight at the OK Corral, and the Earp brothers. Yeah, so you've got the Earp brothers in Wildwest Exodus. So you've got like all these famous gunslingers, and I just thought that was really cool. Like I've never seen a game before that actually went out to like reimagine those legendary characters that already have a wealth of stories built around them, and actually reimagine them as a new thing for a new audience. I found that really cool. I found that really sweet. And that was one of the things that really drew me to the game and to want to look into it more. And obviously, you know, now I have the miniatures in hand and I see how good they are, and that decision kind of feels justified. Right, I'm going to go pour myself that cup of tea now. Right then, now I can concentrate. Well, I think this sounds great, but challenge is, with this and other indie games, how where do you invest in? How deep do you go? LGS, most played GW games, so I have Eos and Necromunda. Yes, there's an Abraham Lincoln beetle, yeah. So the thing is, squad, I talk about this, I have talked about this semi-regularly. I think I have a slightly different school of belief on this subject to other people. If you rock up with a painted two-player starter set to your local games club for a game that you want to try, I'd be willing to bet that most everyone at your club would be willing to give it a go. And I believe this is true of most gamers in most clubs. And the reason I believe this is true is because it's exactly how I got into most of the GW games that I ended up getting into. Oh God, this is really, really hard to glue onto the base. It's exactly how most people get into most games, is they already know someone who has the starter set or who plays the game, and that person is who gets them in, right? And my belief is, if a game intrigues you enough that you want to give it a try, oh God, these are real tough to get to stay. Okay, I'm going to have to, I think, run a bit more glue onto these joints. I'm not sure what's the best method here. Many countries outside the UK have game clubs. In the US, that's not much of a thing. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you know, you can substitute the term game club for like your local LGS group. Obviously, not all game clubs are actually like a dedicated club. A lot of them are, you know, based around an LGS. But I think like they're the same thing ultimately. It's, you know, just the place where people in your area congregate to play, right? And like everywhere has something like that. But it is my genuine belief that if you rock up with a painted two-player starter set and say, does anybody fancy giving this game a try with me? You know, I've just bought it. I really want to try it. Like, if those people are your friends, which if you're going to play war games with them every week, I would have to assume that they are your friends. They're going to play that game with you. And if you try it with enough people, you're going to find other people who like it. So my belief is, if the price of the starter box is worth those initial 5, 6, 10, whatever games that you'll play with your normal play group to see who else likes it, then even if no one ends up picking it up, even if you don't end up liking it long term, you've lost nothing. You know, let's be real here, right? A starter set for a game is usually somewhere around 100 quid for most games. Most starter sets for most games, that's probably like an average price, about 100 quid. If that 100 quid gets you 10 evenings of fun, that's a tenner for an evening of fun each time. I'm just about to have a delivery, so I better make this point quickly. Even if no one does end up picking it up long term, I think that's a fine price to pay for 10 evenings of fun. Even if you end up eBaying it and only making back half of what you paid for it, you know, then it's like a £5 an evening for 10 evenings of fun. I think people look at getting into new games as being a far higher risk than it actually is. And I think that's a shame, because I think that really plays to the advantage of Games Workshop with their deep market penetration. Sorry, I have been sick recently, so I apologize for all the coughing. I'm just going to go take this delivery. Right, that should be the last interruption of the day sorted. That was a big Infinity shipment that I had coming in, so I needed to get it out of the way. Plus, enjoy the painting. Yeah, couldn't agree more. For me, it's all about the modeling and painting. I never get games in. I think, like, a lot of games can just be a modeling and painting project, and I don't think that's a problem. And I don't think we should view that as a problem. But if you want to play these games, like, you just rock up with enough painted miniatures to play the game, and people will play it with you. And some of those people are gonna like it. Like, for fuck's sake, 9th edition 40k is one of the worst written war games I've ever encountered in my life, and it's the most popular game on the planet. It's not hard to persuade people to like games if there's something about them that resonates with them. And in 40k's case, it is that wonderfully deep lore that's associated with it. That's what resonates with people. But a lot of games have something else cool about them. You know, bolt action has an appeal because you can create these kind of what if scenarios around the period of World War II. Conflict 47, even more so, because you can create these what if but weird scenarios around the period of World War II. Infinity is just like a really slick, sleek, high-tech cyberpunk game. I love cyberpunk as a genre. That's why I got into it so much. I've actually recently started reading The Peripheral by William Gibson, only to find out that it's just been made into a series on Prime. It's one of my favorite genres, and there's plenty of good stuff to consume out there that relates to it. But, like, it's really not hard to find good stuff. And when it comes to a lot of these games, it doesn't take too many teaser games, intro games, starter box games to start to find the people who are digging the game, and those are the people that you'll form a play group with. Um, and especially I think like now is the time to strike when it comes to stuff like that, because right now even the most enfranchised 40k players are struggling to cope with this edition of 40k. Like, shit's bad when people like Chapter Master Valrak are like, yeah, I don't like this new edition, I'm just going to play Heresy. Do you know what I mean? Like 40k players at the moment, this edition is so unlikable that 40k players at the moment are actively looking for things that are more fun than playing 40k. So if you want to find people to play indie games with, like, now is the time to be rocking up to your local place that you play with a painted starter set and asking if anybody wants to jam a game of this or that. Right, are you stable enough now? That feels much more solid. I might be able to get this to stand now. Yeah, I do wish that we didn't feel so beholden to collecting and playing the games that we think other people will play with us. Like, I actually think that's really quite sad that we have to feel that way. The hobby should be about exploring your passion and interest. And if the people in your local scene aren't good enough friends with you that they're willing to give another game a try, like, what the fuck, Like, how much of a shitmate do you have to be to not even be willing to try a starter set game of something that somebody else is providing all the materials for? Do you know what I mean? That's like epic tier levels of being a shitmate if you're not even willing to give it a bash. Thanks for sharing my evening bedtime for me here in Oz. Keep up the content. Love your thoughts and attitude. Thanks, Matthew. That's so kind. I really, really appreciate that. That's a really, really lovely thing to say. It's been lovely having you here. I hope you'll come back again. Yeah, I like Tamir Thin, but Tamir Thin actually, it's not the silver bullet people make it out to be. Like, I like it. It's a good product, and I use it, but it can be very slow to work with. You sometimes have to like build up quite a bit of it before it's effective. And so I do like these Revell and Humbrol precision needle nozzle things, but you do always have to have a lighter on hand if you're using one of these. That's the thing. Any of these needle nosed plastic glues, you have to have a lighter on hand to unclog the tube regularly, because the tube will literally clog like every time it dries. It's just a design flaw of that type of tube. Spooky cowpokes, yeah. Well, steampunky cowpokes, steampokes. It's a fun little ditty, this one, Ren. I'm hoping that when you come and visit, we'll be able to have a game of it, because I think it'll be your kind of vibe, to be honest. There we go. Can I persuade you flat now? I think I can. There we go. Yes. By using a stack of bases to balance him on, I've managed to talk you into staying in place for a minute. So now that I know that he's going to actually stay there, I'll start doing some cleanup. What, plastic glue in general, or Tamir Thin, or or the Revel / Humbrol thicker poly cement, or all of the above, or give me the details, Ren. Tell me all about Mrs. Renfield. She is a bit of a legend after all. I haven't seen her in fucking ages, like literally several years. Love Mrs. Renfield. Such a quality soul. Bloody good cook as well, I'll tell you that. I used to be a Magic commentator. I was doing an event in the city that Renfield lives in, and him and Mrs. Renfield put me up for the evening one night, and Mrs. Renfield cooked for me, and then they also took me for breakfast the next morning. It was pretty fucking great. I felt spoiled. I never get treated like that, really. I'm always the one doing the cooking. Which, to be fair, I mean, I make it sound like that's a problem. It's definitely not. Like, I enjoy cooking. I'm good at it, and I like doing it. But it was very nice to be cooked for. Well, Ren, you know, I am stocking it at thatmrshy.com. So if you want some, then perhaps give me a little private message, and I might be able to work out something advantageous to your needs. I do need to come over there. To be honest, I just need to come over there again just to see you both. It's just fucking just been impossible, hasn't it? It's just been impossible. Like, COVID was a bastard, and then fucking my mum got sick, which is obviously still an ongoing thing, and fucking my house move, and it's just been so many reasons not to do any of the things that I've wanted to do, and I really do need to start just doing the things that I want to do. And going to visit the Swiss family Renfield is definitely on that list. Right, can I move you now? Yay, he stands on his own weight now. Look at that. Yes, lad. Okay, well, that backpack's now clean and ready to go on as well. These lightning things don't even really need much cleaning. They've kept the mold lines along like the angled parts anyway, so that's pretty dope. All right, so this one should be pretty easy to fix because it's got little points on it already that should contact. Well, they're supposed to contact under his arm according to the instructions, but there ain't no fucking contact points from under his arm. Is it there that they go in? No. Wait a minute. Mrs. I was having a nap. Went for a ghost walk last night. I love a ghost walk. I actually used to do ghost walks. I used to be part of a troupe of people that delivered ghost walks. Right. Now I'm starting to understand where you want to go. Okay. It's not. I have to say, this is something I've noticed with the War Cradle stuff. It is prone to the instructions being a bit vague sometimes. And when it comes to obviously pieces like this structural lightning, which literally hold the model up, kind of not something you want, right? So that's definitely a thing to look out for when you're putting together these War Cradle kits. Is they can be prone to a bit of vague instruction syndrome. And you'll want to just make sure that you're double, triple, quadruple checking where stuff is supposed to slot in. There we go, that looks fine to me. It still looks fucking great. Actually, I'm really impressed with this model, as much as it is a bit of a pain in the dick to put together. It's structurally very impressive. All the lightning bits holding it up. It reminds me of like Lady Olinda from GW, except Lady Olinda was a terrible model that, like, to give you an idea of how terrible Lady Olinda is as a model, the guy, the store manager at the GW I bought it from, said at the time that I bought it, like when it was actually him that recommended it to me, and he was like, if you want a model that's really challenging to paint, I recommend this, but do be aware it's also really challenging to build. And like you know, if you've ever been into a GW, they do not tell you the flaws of a product unless they're really serious and apparent. That is not part of their marketing training. At least you have some instructions. Too many companies don't include instructions or decals, just plastic and a single online static pick. True, yeah, true. I don't care so much about decals, but that's more because I quite like freehanding. I don't really like how decals look a lot of the time, but I do agree on instructions. They are necessary and often overlooked. You use instructions? What kind of crazy idea is that? Hasn't the use of GW games completely dissuaded you of the notion that instructions don't work? I mean, I use instructions if I think the kit's complex enough that I'll need the instructions, to be honest. That's about it. Hey, Jacob, I'm doing good. Oh, no. So I knew that you were one of the people that had recently joined. I hadn't put together that you were Dakar, so thanks for pointing that out. You appear in the credits, but obviously you appear with whatever name you sign up to Patreon with. That's kind of how I work the credits is whatever name Patreon gives me is the name that I put in the credits when they sign up. So because it's got your same name as your YouTube account, not your username, I have no way of kind of putting two and two together. Some social media I go by Pip Chirpington. Is that what you go by on Instagram? I feel like I recognise that name. I feel like I definitely recognise that name from one of my socials. Yeah, I was going to run this stream in the Discord today, but I think when I wanted to do it was just a bit too early for everyone. So I was sat there for like 20 minutes, just literally on my own in the Discord. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to do this stream publicly instead. Are these the same? Have we got symmetry here? Nope, they've got different locators. Shit on it. Well, let's see if you go on. Oh, okay. Are you just going to go on fine? In that case, let's dance. This Tesla's been the only one so far that's actually been a challenging build, to be fair. The rest have been an absolute breeze. It's like the only one that's been a bit tricky. And even then, not that bad, really. It was just where this one particular bit of lightning at the back here, it was just where that needs to connect that wasn't quite clear. The rest of it kind of finagled itself into place eventually. I think so. Also Twitch and Twitter, I think. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're on all the socials. Kind of looking forward to Jen getting back. We're having lasagna with 4 cheese flatbread for dinner, and I had a really bad pizza last night, so I'm looking forward to a nicer dinner today. Okay, that's that one on. Again, just a link to the model that I'm currently working on. I had a busy morning. It involved a shopping trolley, a cat house, and a walk from one of the local area where I live to the other. Otherwise, I would have jumped on the street. I think it's my own stupid fault. It was last minute, and most people tend to be busy Saturday daytimes anyway. Whenever I do stuff in the server on a Saturday, it always works better if it's the evening. Because the good thing about nerds, and especially nerds when they start to get to my age, or our age, Ren, since it's you I'm talking to, we don't tend to go out much on a Saturday night. We will every now and again, but it's pretty rare that we go out on a Saturday night. We normally sit at home and do hobby on a Saturday night anyway, or like sit with the partner and watch a movie or something like that. So Saturday nights are fine, but I always want to do stuff Saturday day, and that's not really that smart. Lasagna is boss. I've taken to batch cooking now. So I'll like make up a big old batch of lasagna, and then when we want one, I just pull it out of the freezer and can literally cook it from frozen. It takes about an hour when it's frozen, but you can literally cook it from frozen. So you get like, the quality of a homemade lasagna, but the that's a shame. You're gonna find your oh, this is tricky. Not in love with this. Oh, it's because it's the fucking wrong one. That's why. Knobhead. Trying to glue the wrong one on and wondering why it's not a good fit. Dickhead. Let's try that again now that I've got plastic glue residue all over the place. All right. Better. Okay, gonna have to wait for that plastic glue to dry around his hand and then do some scraping back. Did not find Lady O an issue to build. Those spirit hosts, though, that was painful. Yeah, I actually think the issue with Lady O is she's probably easier to build than this, actually, to be fair, but she's structurally so unsound, whereas this is structurally very sound. Whilst it does have all the wobbly bullshit like Lady Olinda, it actually stands well on them. There's like very little wobble to it, practically none at all. And it feels like if I were to drop it, it would survive. Whereas Lady O is a fucking nightmare. She's like really fragile. I'll tell you what, though, that does look boss. Obviously, I've never seen any of these models in person before, and this is one of those models that the photo does not do it justice. As well as not having the best color scheme, the lightning and stuff just sells so much better in person. It's really cool. No model is complete without plastic glue fingerprints on its face. It's funny because it's true. I do it so often. I've done it on commissions before and had to like sit there and rub surfaces flat with sandpaper wrapped around a fucking toothpick and stuff like that. And it's just the worst feeling. Like cocking up a commission piece and having to sit and fix it. I actually had one. I remember once I fucked up so much with plastic glue. This is why I prefer super glue. I fucked up so much with plastic glue that I actually assembled the shoulder pads on You know the custodian and the sister of silence that go together. I think she's called Alea. I can't remember his name. But I actually glued her shoulder pads on back to front with plastic glue. End up having to buy a whole new box, which obviously contains both of them, just to replace her because I fucked up the shoulder pads. That was such a stinger. Plastic glue is just, it's a nightmare. I'm not a fan of it. I far prefer super glue. I think, like, if you're abusing your models so much that you need plastic glue to keep them together, you should probably be readdressing how you treat your models. Like, that's probably the bigger concern. I treat my models like that, but not on purpose. I'm just clumsy. Well, I mean, I can't really hold you up for that because I can be pretty clumsy myself. Um, I'm not always the best at paying attention. Right. Next model is the Union Bell. So that's the lady off of this sprue. Also, sprue density, right? I've already made 4 good-sized characters. Bearing in mind this is a 35mm scale game as well, so the models are quite big. Sprue density. There's still 2 more characters left on this sprue. Bearing in mind, one is this big-ass fucking Eiffel, Gustav Eiffel. The big, like, mutant 2-headed Fomorian ogre thing. The Tesla with all of his lightning bullshit. And then one 35mm scale woman. There's still a 35mm scale man and another woman on this sprue. The sprue density is insane. It's so good. I'm as articulated as a cow on a loose wood pile. I'm just imagining a cow dancing on a loose wood pile now. I think, is everyone in the chat at the moment a patron? I think everyone watching currently is a patron, aren't they? It's just occurred to me. I think most of you probably could have watched the stream in Discord. I love plastic glue, but then again, I have a ginger doofus who's obsessed with my toy room. Cats do be like that. Cats do be like that. Oh, Beetle, you should get on. It's only £1 a month. It's cheap as chips. But I paywall my Discord, and the reason I paywall my Discord is it's a community health thing, basically. So the reason it's only £1 a month is because I don't actually want it to be expensive enough that no one can afford it. Like, I never want people to have to worry about affording it. Yeah, and and if people like struggle to pay for a month or two, then I don't kick them out or anything. But the main reason for the Patreon is to essentially put a paywall in place on the Discord. And the reason I do that is because, and you can ask everyone else who is a patron, it just creates so much of a nicer environment when no one's there to cause trouble. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's there because they want to hang out with, like, nice, kind-hearted, similarly minded community members. And so, like, you'd be amazed. Like, people, even when it only costs £1, that's enough of a barrier that people won't join just because they want to cause trouble, just because they want to, be an arsehole. But you should totally join the Patreon and come hang out with us in Discord. I think you'd really like it. The Discord is super fun. It's a very, like, community-minded place. Like, we're all kind of more friends. It's not. I don't really do that whole content creator status quo kind of thing, which might be like, you may be able to consider that a bad thing. Really, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think it can be good for content creators to keep a certain amount of distance from their audiences in some situations. But ultimately, it's just not who I am as a person. And the nice thing about that patron Discord is that because the paywall discourages people from joining that, you know, want to cause trouble or want to be there for anything other than to support me, it kind of means that I've been able to like become friends with everyone in there, and that's really nice. It's not like other Discords that I'm in where there is kind of that status quo. It's kind of just like 80 mates all hanging about in a server, and I really dig it. I love our Discord. I'm so proud of it. It's the thing that I most kind of sing the praises of. Like I consider it to be my best achievement as a content creator. That I've managed to create that place. Yeah, but you troll me in like you're one of my best mates. You troll me in a way that like I'd expect a mate to troll me. You're not an arsehole. You don't like try to cause trouble. When the server was public, people would join just to start arguments. Back before I had the Patreon, when I was streaming, people would join just to start arguments and be a pain in the ass, and that doesn't happen anymore. It hasn't happened since we paywalled it. We have some very valuable people in the Discord. We have some absolute fucking legends in the Discord. I'm so lucky to have such a great community. It really actually is like the best thing that I've ever created. Like I would, if I had to delete all of my videos or delete my Discord, I would delete all of my videos. 100%. Not like, don't even need to think about it. And that's crazy because obviously the YouTube represents such a huge body of time investment. It's a ridiculous amount of work has gone into making all of those videos. But at the end of the day, like, yeah. I mean, it's the only, obviously, like, I know it's my Discord, so there's inherently a lot of bias there, but it's the only Discord that I'm actually constantly active in. I'm only in there so I can look cool. Matt, I hate to break it to you, mate, but none of us look cool, buddy. We're all a bunch of fucking nerds. I'm so sorry, man. I know that might not be what you wanted to hear, but I feel like I have to tell it straight. I don't know. It makes me all warm and fuzzy when I think about the community. I think we've just somehow come up with a formula that creates just such a cool place, you know, such a like creatively encouraging environment. And I have a hell of a lot of love for, oh God, that's tricky. Okay, it glues like that. So do I need to put the legs on first or after? I'm going to risk putting a leg on here. Sorry. I once again forgotten to show you the model that I'm building. Bollocks. You fucked up. Union Bell, there she is. Oh, she's wicked. I didn't actually realise how cool she was. She looks amazing painted. Copy link address. This is the one that we're now working on. I have about 4. One's a Goth Night Stream Discord, 2 are synthetic image Discords, and yours is the only one I post to regularly. Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like, being fully honest, I am quite a reclusive person, generally speaking. I think I might have missed a piece here. Yeah, there's a front and a back loincloth. So the fact that I check my own Discord constantly is actually quite surprising, because everybody else's Discord I like would probably check a maximum of twice a day. Every time I join a Discord, I mute it, because I mostly join Discords to like ask questions and stuff. So like I'll join the Discord for a specific game so that I can ask the creators of the game questions. stuff like that. I don't generally join Discords to be like an active member of the community as such. PK's Discord, I'm kind of like that with. The thing is with PK's Discord is like I love him and his content a lot, but his Discord is mostly Warhammer players, which is like, as much as I like them, I don't have a ton to talk to them about a lot of the time, unless we're talking about Warhammer lore, in which case I will get involved. I miss someone changing the definition. The thing is, this is very safe though, Beetle. Like, I'm in my own home right now. I'm at my dining table. I'm doing something that I would do anyway. I'm just thinking out loud while I'm doing it. That's kind of, so it's very safe. It's not like putting yourself out there like in a group of people. And as such, it feels very easy to me to be sociable in this kind of context. But I'm definitely not the best at being a socializer. What's the deal here? Do you like make a socket or something? Ah, gotcha. You go on like that. Okay. Cool. Running lady's got her legs now. I don't know. I say it all the time. I think y'all overrate me. I think, honestly, the majority of what I do in my head is just think out loud and hope that it resonates with people. Which is probably why a lot of my content can be a bit hit and miss. Why I have like videos that only do like 500 views and then videos that do 50,000 views. Because a lot of what I put out is just stream of consciousness stuff. But that's it's the nearest I can do to making honest content, because I am kind of just a stream of consciousness sort of person. I do a lot of my thinking out loud in the real world, and you are just being an arsehole. And I don't tend to. I'm not the kind of person that like comes to immediate conclusions. I tend to like do my thinking out loud and kind of figure stuff out as I'm going. And a lot of the time, stuff that I say in videos on live streams is actually kind of more me trying to explore a point than make a statement. And a lot of the difficulty with that is that the internet doesn't really like that these days. The internet treats everything you say as like a definite, unmovable, unchanging, forever statement. And that's just not how my brain works. If I say something, I'm usually putting it out into the world to try and kind of start a discussion and learn more. I don't tend to make definite, ultimate, final statements, but people do read the things that I say that way sometimes, and that can be tricky. It's the way I work too. Yeah, no, I know. I think that's why we get on so well, mate. Video views, all hail the algorithm. I wonder if it'll ever achieve consciousness. I wonder if it has. Used to tending. No, I know the algorithm could be a fuck sometimes. Absolute fuck sometimes. Like Squad was saying earlier, oh, why don't you do a value shootout between like Games Workshop box products and other companies' box products? And I was like, I literally made that video, and the algo showed it to about 1,000 people. It's like really underviewed, and it should be viral. It should be one of my most successful videos, but it's not, because the algo is a cock. I think you've now officially completed the hobby, Jacob. I think you're done now. You're supposed to retire after this. It can never get any better for you, so you probably may as well. Yeah, I think like for me, thinking out loud is, obviously like it's clearly an ADHD thing. Um, but it is like it's tricky to be a person who thinks out loud in a world that wants definite binary black and white right and wrong statements. um and like in content creation, that's really difficult because people would rather start a discussion around why you're right or wrong than they would start a discussion around expanding and exploring a topic with you. um and my brain doesn't work that way. It never has. If somebody says something that I disagree with, then my first thought is to expand and illustrate to that person why I disagree, or a point that I think they may have missed that might change their perspective. That's kind of naturally how I relate to other people. But the majority of the world doesn't seem to work that way to me. Most people, if you make a statement that they disagree with, they just tell you you're wrong and then usually call you some kind of mean name. Or they tell you your content is shit because they disagree with you, or they just like really rudely correct you with no sense of like compassion. I don't know, the internet is just not like that. Yeah, but that is often what it's like, Ren, is people have a go at they have a go at the individual, not the argument. Like at the end of the day, not everyone can be right, but also not everyone's trying to be right. Um, Being right is often not the aim for me. It's starting a conversation and learning more about what other people think is what I'm usually trying to do. Not always, not always. Sometimes I am trying to communicate my belief to the wider world. Um, but the majority of the time, I really just want to kind of compare and contrast my initial thoughts on a subject to other people's, um, and see where the conversation goes. Like that's, to me, that's really interesting. But that is often viewed as wrong. I mean, you definitely. Oh yeah, of course. Them side skirts are going to cover that as well, aren't they? These bits. Yeah, yeah, they are. I was like that front loincloth looks like it's protruding an awful lot. That doesn't seem right. And then realize that it's fine. It's just oh, I'm not in love with that. I don't think the tip of your foot is going to touch down, is it? Give it a bit of glue to be safe. No, your foot's way in the air. I've got to stand you on one leg. I hate miniatures that stand on one leg. That is something I disagree with. I don't like miniatures that stand on one leg. In our next segment, Topic Starters, we'll discuss bringing lore to the table, best wargaming snacks, and how the hell do I fix this? How did I even glue that there? Why am I bleeding now? Honestly, if I had the ability to be consistent enough, I would keep a podcast going. I kind of do have a podcast. Again, it's patron only content. I have a thing called Thinking While I Paint that I occasionally record. And it's literally this, essentially. It's me talking to a camera while I'm working. But I've only done like a couple of episodes for it because a lot of the time the conversations that I would have are just like follow-ups of things we've already talked about in Discord. So unless something new springs to mind, I don't want to waste people's time by making content that they've essentially already seen. And then, I mean, these that come pre-attached to bases. Yeah, I have that beef with a lot of the Reaper stuff, the built-in bases. Just no need for it. Most people, including me, accidentally invest themselves in their opinions. That means an attack on the opinion becomes a personal attack. I really hate it when that side of me surfaces. It's tough. Like I do it too. Everyone does it. But the more you learn to recognize when you're doing it, the less you're going to do it, right? Unless you're some kind of asshole that just doesn't mind going on that way. I'd rather be happy than right anyway. Well, that's the theory. Yeah, you'd have to experience being happy first to know for sure. One of my closest friends always plays a barbarian loincloth in D&D. It's got to a point where our regular DM gave him wraps of the barbarian king just to get some clothes on him. So, controversial opinion. Not like I've ever had one of those before. I don't mind overdone stereotypes in role-playing games. I actually think that they can, as a creative space in which to play a character, they can often be really fun to explore. I think that the naked, always angry barbarian is actually potentially quite a fun example of one of those stereotypes that yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of a creative role player should be able to find something interesting to do with pretty much any character. And I think a lot of the time, especially for the really creative role players, they spend so much time coming up with these like really deep concepts that actually just taking the foot off the pedal for a minute and just playing a fucking meme is actually really fun. Yeah. I mean, going off the beaten path is also fun for sure. I feel like this model might be in a few more pieces than it really needed to be, but it does look good. So I'm willing to forgive it. And it does go together pretty well. So, oh, I've left one of her arms on the sprue as well. Go on, Gertie, where's your other arm? There it is. That was easy to find. My last barbarian was a halfling that had a strength of 9 and a dex of 18 and used a rapier. It's pretty good. It's pretty silly, but I like it. In our current campaign, we have a necromancer who promotes communism. We have affectionately dubbed him the People's Necromancer. I'm currently working on a fantasy setting, but I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it. Might become a mini agnostic story-driven minis game. Ooh, fun. That sounds real fun. Ren's not bad at a narrative. I think I've only ever played in one game that you've DM'd, but it was a fun game. Do you remember back? It was me, you, Mike, and Courtney, and we were doing that Pathfinder campaign. I think it was. That was good fun. Them what days, Ren? Them what days? Give them you. Yeah. I actually really like the scale of these. Being 35 mil, not 32 mil. They're just that little bit chunkier. Like the 38 mil what's it called? Conquest stuff. It just has that like natural extra bit of chunk to it that's really nice. Like it It makes painting a bit easier, like seeing the details a bit easier. It means that, you know, some of your refining work doesn't need to be quite as finessed. It's quite. I find it quite appealing. These just slightly increased scale games. The problem with the Conquest stuff specifically is that it has that slightly increased scale, but then the miniature quality isn't very good on the plastics. So like they have all that extra space to create a good looking mini, and then they kind of don't take advantage of it because they have these really like under detailed plastics. They have gotten better though, to be fair. Like the starter set is probably the most egregious. The newer stuff has definitely improved. Like they've obviously made a conscious effort to up the quality of the castings. But it's just a bit of a shame, you know, when they've got all that extra real estate to work with for the models to come out like looking under detailed. It's just a bit like, yeah, you would think that it would not be that way. I've also noticed I've got a model here, or a few models here, that have got options. I don't think the Tesla bots have got options. Yeah, I think they've all got the same loadouts, but there's these mono cav and strider cav. One's a mono wheel and one's a spider. And you get several of them. How many of them do you get? 3? Yeah, you get 3 of them. But you have to build them one way or the other. And that's again a thing that this comes along to another one of my things that I would like to see different in games. If you're going to give me build options, make all of the optional parts modular. You know, in the case of this, it's like the lower half of the body. Make the spider carriage and the mono wheel 2 things that I can put on separately. And the way this goes together, it doesn't look like that's the case. It doesn't look like that's possible, but it might be. It might be. We'll see. If it is, then awesome. But I've got a feeling it's not going to be, which will bug me a bit. Yeah, Inquisitor was 54 mil. Yeah, it was a great set of miniatures though. Like they felt so ahead of their time because they used that increased scale to push in details that at the time weren't really possible. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, why didn't Conquest do that? They make this 38mm scale that, you know, has this additional space in which they can create something really, really visually impactful, and then they get these like really soft, low detail Chinese castings that, you know, like the extra that you pay for shipping from using Far Eastern manufacture, they may well have been able to have them manufactured at a better quality place. Actually, are they Far Eastern? I heard that they were Greek. I heard that the castings were done in Greece. I'm not sure what's actually true. Yeah, I think 40 is about the limit where you anything bigger than 40, you have to start thinking about different terrain. But I agree, up to about 40, you'll get away with it. My friend printed an Inquisitor scale. I can't believe it's not Interrogator Ravener. Oh man, I'd love to know where he got that from, because Ravener is one of my favorite characters in 40k lore. Possibly my favorite character in 40k lore, actually. Although I'm a big fan of Harlan Nail and what's her name? The ginger acrobat. Why am I forgetting her name? I'm forgetting her name. From the same series. But yeah, the characters from Ravener, I think, are some of the best characters that have ever been written in GW lore. Hey, my beloved has returned. I can hear her coming in. Hello, my lover.
Hello.
How you doing?
You got on a flight there?
Yeah, I've got plenty of light.
Do you want me to move that lamp for you?
No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I've been going for 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours. Not struggled at all.
Look at your wee deliveries.
Yeah, I know. Let's sort them all out. Figure out how those battle mats, as I was worried, came in rolled.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to figure out how the hell to ship those. Yeah, I think we're having fun so far. Are we having fun? Jen's asking how the stream's going. I think we're having fun, aren't we?
Hi, friends. I've got birthday cards.
Yeah, you have. Right, that's model number 5. Need more tea. Always need more tea. Yeah, Frog, fun's allowed. Fun's the name of the game. I'll check it out. I love the short story Thorn Wishes Talon. Yeah. The entire Ravener, Eisenhorn, Beckwin series of books is honestly, it's probably the best thing Dan Abnett's ever written, and it's up there with probably the best fiction Warhammer has available. The only thing with it is some of it's quite old. So, like, all the way up until probably the end of the first Ravener book, there's a bit of not great portrayal of some of the women characters. Because, it was written, like, in the early 2000s Tude era where respecting women wasn't cool yet.
Before women were cool.
Yeah, before women were allowed to be respected like human beings. And it is, I don't think that Dan Abnett is like a particularly problematic author. I think it's just a sign of the times. I think it's just that, the audience being predominantly male, that was how female characters were often portrayed to men in those kind of books at the time. Because you can see that he like softens up once you get into the Ravener book, the second and third Ravener books, and then the Beckwin books, especially because they have a female protagonist, you can see that he starts to kind of think a little bit more about how his female characters go over. But there was definitely room for improvement at first. I realised when in work, customers would come up. I'll be like, "Wait, just a sec." Okay. Do you work retail by any chance? Because I definitely used to do shit like that when I worked retail. I was so bad towards the end of my time in retail. I feel really bad actually because my boss at the time was a really good friend of mine, and I was just done with customer facing work, and I think he knew that. But I probably wasn't the best employee towards the end of my time there. All right, Ren, take care, mate. Thanks for popping in. I'm all right at the minute, love. Once I've done this guy, I'm going to wrap up anyway. I don't think I'm going to start getting into the bulk stuff. Just get these characters done. It's still not bad. 6 characters in 3 hours. With all the chatting as well.
I've done something to that.
Oh, have you?
I went to take a vape and it was like hot lava.
Oh no. Better go back to your old one then. Or was that a little elf stick?
It's not elf, it's Elux.
Oh yeah. Any good?
Yeah, it's actually really nice.
Rather smash. Pretty standard cigar-like fare, but it hits well.
Really low nicotine.
Comfortable. It's not low nicotine, it's 1%. 10 milligram.
Yeah.
It's higher than we normally vape. But then it's lower powered, so. Kind of like how the Imperial Knights book deal with it. It's highly misogynist, but it's also put on display as a weakness, and the structure of the Night Houses, yeah, Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I just, I like fiction that acknowledges that greatness can come from anyone. Like, you don't need to be born with a specific privilege in order to achieve greatness. Um, I mean, it's a sad truth that it helps. That shouldn't be the world that we live in, but it is. But that's also why I think, you know, giving less fortunate people characters to identify with that are in positions of success and or power is important in fiction. It's like it creates that sense of hope, that sense of drive. Fiction is a powerful thing if used responsibly. This guy's nice and simple. So we're now moving on to Carl Fredrickson, and that's also one sprue completely done. And this is the last one I'm going to build before I wrap up the stream, because now that Jen's home, I can start to think about getting something to eat. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to copy link address. So this is the last one that we're building today. Oh, betting shop's even easier. Yeah. I think it's like expected for the person behind the counter in the bookies to be grumpy, isn't it? It's like part of the job. I remember when I used to live in Bath, I used to work on a road where there was a bookies. And if you don't know Bath, it's one of the lowest crime rate cities in the country, generally speaking. But it does, and it seems to really surprise people when they find this out, but actually it has a really serious heroin problem. And obviously with heroin, it's very common for serious crime to accompany the presence of that drug. And yes, I used to work on this little community high street in like suburban Bath, and there was a bookies up the road, and it actually got turned over by armed robbers twice in the few small years that I worked on this high street. I think it was like 3 years I worked on this high street, and this bookies got turned over by armed robbers twice in 3 years in like a really low crime rate city. And on both occasions, it was suggested that heroin was the cause. The robbers were basically looking for money to score. It's pretty crazy. Like, such a low crime rate part of the country, yet like such a serious crime. And in a really innocuous, like, suburban area as well. Like this road would be like, at 3 o'clock, it'd be where all like the mums are grabbing coffee together. First thing in the morning, it'd be where like all the local workforce come to get breakfast and stuff like that. Like, it's that kind of area. Was not remotely a rough area. Bath does have a couple of rough areas, which again surprises people, because anyone who knows anything about the city, they think it's like eminently clean, and that there's no crime and that there's no poverty, and that's not true. Like, every city has its areas like that. Bath's no different. But this was not what you would consider to be one of the bad areas by any measure, and it was pretty amazing for something so serious to happen, and like not even just once either, like lightning struck twice. I got almost robbed once. It was a weird experience. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I've had a few close calls. I had a shoplifter, but it was really hard to do anything about it. because I used to man the shop on my own. It's like, if you suspect someone of shoplifting, like, you can't really leave your post to go and, oh, you're going to be an arsehole, aren't you? You can't really leave your post to go and pursue them and try and confront them as to if they have robbed something, because you're then leaving the whole shop unmanned. So, like, there's not really a good way out of that situation. If you think someone's robbed something, you kind of just got to not do anything about it. Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. But we're pretty sure that the guy had shoplifted some stuff off the shelf. Got punched too. I was leaning too close to the bandit screen. Oh, damn. Damn. It's it's not fun when shit like that happens. Like, I'm physically, like, I can take care of myself, like, I did martial arts training when I was younger. I'm a pretty big, strong guy. But I'm really non-confrontational. Like, I really don't like physical confrontation. And so, to me, it's never an option. It just doesn't register to me as one of the ways I could deal with a situation. If I'm in a situation that gets violent, my instant reaction is to try to de-escalate, and I will never be the person that escalates towards violence, because it's just not who I am. And that's kind of a lot of the trouble, like with situations like shoplifters. Like, it's really hard to confront them in any way that isn't potentially going to escalate in that manner. It's very difficult to create any kind of situation that doesn't have the potential to end badly, because like, even if they have robbed something, if you're like, excuse me, but I think you've taken something, they're going to be like, no, I fucking haven't, and they're going to get shirty. Of course they are. Like, that's the easiest way to try and get out of it. They try and intimidate you out of questioning them further. So if you're someone who would naturally back down in that kind of situation anyway, whether they think that they could, deal with the person physically or not, like, it's really hard to be put in that situation. So in my case, I guess I was kind of lucky that I couldn't leave the shop unmanned, because it meant that I had a reason to never be put in that situation. You don't necessarily expect to, and you don't necessarily want to. I don't think that physical harm is on the list of ways that you resolve conflicts, personally. I think if a conflict is so severe that you can't solve it with anything other than physical harm, that's time to walk away from that conflict and consider it a problem that you can't personally solve. And yeah, I mean, definitely not everyone thinks like that. This goes together weird. Fuck? I'm not missing a piece. Ah, okay, I got it. I just didn't quite have it angled right. I've got it. I didn't have it skew with enough. I should have known. He's a cowboy. Of course, his flappy coattail is going to be skew with. No self-respecting cowboy would have a flappy coattail that was flapping straight. no, Matt, I can't actually see that. No. Although one of the things, if we do start doing these streams a bit more regularly, is we could start having people from the patron Discord join. There isn't a female Inquisitor wearing Terminator armor. I think there is canonically. I'll be right back. I need a wee. Right. Yeah, I think canonically there is a female Inquisitor in Terminator armor, but I cannot remember for the life of me what she's called. As I recall, I told him to leave. He refused. I said we would call the police, and he said he would wait for them. I told him that was good of him. That's a great response. One thing I've noticed about this plastic is it's just a shade softer than the current G-Dub stuff. It's probably closer to, like, in terms of softness, to like G-Dub stuff from around the like early to mid 2000s. It's really nicely, crisply detailed. The detail is fantastic. It's like absolutely nothing to worry about on that front. But it's interesting that it's slightly softer because it actually makes it a little bit easier to work. Like, I haven't once needed to break out my sanding sticks. I've got sanding sticks here. No, so initially we thought it might be Archon. We were discussing this in Discord. We thought it might be Archon. And then after a bit of research, it looks like War Cradle actually have their own casting facility, which is very interesting because, you know, they are still a pretty small company. Like, they have a distribution company, a Scenics company, and then obviously Wayland Games is a retail outlet. But they're not massive. So the fact that they have the budget to make these high quality hard plastics is really encouraging when you think about it. Yeah, we ended up having a fairly extensive discussion about them in Discord because I think there's a few of us that are quite interested in what they're up to, what they're doing. Their products are really decent, actually. Really, really surprisingly decent. Yeah, well, Wayland, obviously, the big thing with Wayland is they're probably the UK's main supplier for Infinity. And I know that the rate on Infinity is okay. Like, it's good enough that they can sell it to me and I can match their prices. So what they're paying for it must be decent. Because I can sell Infinity for the same price that they sell it. The only difference is I round off the silly pennies. So I basically go for like their price, but to the nearest quid or the nearest 50p. Whereas they're quite happy to have, like, you know, prices that end in 11s and 7s and stuff like that, and I'm not bad. But yeah, Wayland, it's got to definitely help put money in the coffers for projects like this. I imagine that it's one of the reasons they're able to do stuff like this, resurrecting these games that would otherwise fade into antiquity. Because this, from what I understand, Wildwest Exodus was like a you know, an all resin, like boutique-y kind of low production run game, and Wayland or War Cradle took over the IP and went and produced plastics for it and produced scenery for it and revamped the rules and all that kind of thing. Redid a bunch of the sculpts. So, you know, they've put a lot of effort into rejuvenating it. That's one of the reasons why I'd like to see it do well, because I think companies who put a lot of effort into doing something to try and, you know, bring something new to the community deserve to be rewarded for that. I also just like the fact that this game essentially scratches the same itch as Malifaux for me, but I find it more accessible. I find it easier to know what I want to buy with Wildwest. And I think we're about to put our last piece on, and we'll be tying up the stream after that. I got to drop 2. Thanks for the chats. Yeah, Beetle, thanks for hanging out. It's really good fun having you here. Squad, thank you as well. Always lovely to have you around. I'll see you in the Discord, no doubt. I hope y'alls that are leaving have a good day. I'm going to be off soon anyway. This is like the final moments of the stream, really. Once I've finished prepping this last die, I'm not going to get into any of the bulk stuff today, the models that come in multiples. There we go. Of course, his head would be the single most mold liney part. That's like classic miniature hobby woes, isn't it? You get through the whole model and you're like, oh, I'm really surprised how few mold lines there are on this. And then you get to the head and the head's got all the mold lines. Like, fuck. Not the really difficult bit that I really need to look clean as hell. Not that bit, please. Yeah, that's nice though. That's a really nice mini. I love these miniatures. I'm dead impressed with them. Really make me want to play. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. Cool. So we've got 6 built just here. That's not bad. I'm not mad at that at all. Yeah, and then just comes the bulk stuff after that. So there's some cavalry for the Enlightened, Tesla bots for the Tesla, and then some iron horses. And then, yeah, so it's all the multiples next. That's all the individuals done. And it's just the multiples. Or you prime and all the mold lines suddenly appears. Yeah, loves doing that. Loves doing that. Matt, I might do something on like some of the characters, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. They're probably going to feature in some sort of painting related content, but I'm thinking about something maybe more around the subject of speed paints. I don't want to spoil too much stuff, but you'll see them on the channel for sure. You will definitely see them on the channel. So don't worry about that. Okay, folks. So usual end of stream marketing stuff. If you're not a patron already, please do consider signing up. It's £1 a month. You gain access to my Discord. You get to influence future content. You get a few bits of exclusive content. You get early access to YouTube videos, all for £1 British a month. Patreon.com/thatmrshy, and that really is the best way to support the content. If you like the videos that I make, that's the best way to keep me doing them, because that pays a hell of a lot more than ad revenue does, about 3 times as much as ad revenue to be precise. So it's really important to the growth of the channel and to my ability to be able to dedicate more time to YouTube and less time to painting off camera, where I don't get to share it with you. So if that's the thing you want to do, I'd really appreciate it. If it's not a thing you want to do, that's not a problem at all either. Just you being here, clicking like on videos, being subscribed to the channel, that kind of stuff, that also really, really helps, and I appreciate all of it. So thank you so much to everyone that's joined me here today. I hope you had fun. It was nice to do something a little bit different, and I will definitely try to do something like this again sometime soon. But until next time, folks, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.